This is several days late. Reasons that will be unexplained until I decide to explain. Where's my energy drinks? Snacks. Snack. Extra snack. Oh. There's the snack. And you. Still sticky. Extra shit. Got the floss again. Also floss. I only have one left. So I do. So I do. Okay. Upkeeping time. Or effectively I wait. That's not it. I'm looking for the other one. Where's that command? There it is. It's Control tab. Wonderful. Alright. Today's gonna be a multi-parter. I'll start late because today's been nothing but fucking drama. And yeah, that's kind of it. Been nothing but drama. This keeps screwing up. Got you. And now I'm being called right when I start my stream. Every time, without fail. I know because I've been using it. I've been walking out bitching. What the last time you was walking out when they're in the same. How do I log in for an hour ago? Check that shit. Hey, shut up, you're lying. You're lying. Go in the room and fucking talk to my own mother. Becomes a shouting match. Need guy in place soon. Alright. How are we doing tonight, chat? Assuming you heard just the yelling that was happening, that's how well I'm doing. I'm annoyed. I'm fucking tired. I'm mentally exhausted. Dealing with drama that's not my fucking own. My house continues to fall into disarray. Nothing gets fixed. Nothing gets solved. And every single time, I try to address the goddamn problem and bring it to the attention of the people who are supposed to help solve the goddamn problem. The answer is I need to fix things. Then I address the person who's causing the problem. Now I'm being called a liar. Anyways. Pull up Dunky's channel. And then we shall begin. There you go. Alright. So, before we begin with Dunky shit, I want to go over the take from Sterling from yesterday. This shit's retarded. Have you met average gamers? Not hardcore gamers, not people who think difficulty is life or death, the actual average game customer. They suck and they have fun. Games journalists are a lot closer to average video games, the average gamers, than the people obsessed with game journalist skills. This take is already fucking stupid out of the goddamn gate. And I went over why, so basically we're just gonna be reading back over the shit I've already said. I responded to this yesterday, and I respond to a lot of threads at the same time, but all this shit makes more sense when I have the ability to lay into it, and not in 2 minutes and 20 seconds, so that's what we're doing here. I might just clip this part of it, put this on YouTube as well, but while we're here, I've coached these players. I also have met and I have been and am many other types of gamers. You have yourself the casual, you have yourself the seasoned veteran, you have the elitist, you have the herd mentality player, and then you have the person who only plays one game or one type of genre of game and never go beyond that. As well as the professionals, and not just pros that are signed to teams, but also the people who start out as either elitists or seasoned veterans that want to become better, and then become the rookies that you then hear about become pros, right? Players have paid me to coach them because I was better, not because I was popular or because I was promoted amongst a group of people who are already confirmed to be good because of my own skill. You, Sterling, are trying to defend journalists because they lack the basic fundamentals of how to read instructions and follow tutorials. Which is ass garbage. However, games discourse does need more fucking perspective. But it's not gonna come from Sterling. Nor should it ever come from Sterling, right? And the reason why, I already clipped here. All of these replies from Sterling, and all the replies from people in the mentions. Brain dead, completely fucking brain dead. This is the reason why Sterling and nobody else can ever try to start these conversations. People like Sterling shouldn't start these conversations. Bad faith game journalists cannot be trusted to start conversations. Bad faith game developers cannot be trusted to start these conversations. Because game edits and TV editing and game mods and the original design of the game as writ are not anything close to the same goddamn thing. It should be left up to people like myself, people like Sophia Norwitz, people like Colin Moriarty, people like Richard Lewis, people like Thorin Shields, people like Rod Slasher, streamers like, I'd say Trainwreck, maybe, people like Charlie, people who actually play their games and enjoy them, not just jumping from genre to genre and product to product, and actually like the thing, not just are promoting it because, you know, their voice actor and their voice and their production work is in it. Those are the people, along with professionals and actual people who enjoy playing video games. Those are the people who should start and should lead the discussion. You're more than welcome to add to it, but you should never be the people who are picked to sit on a panel to talk about them. Because all this bullshit right here, this is the barometer, and all of you guys are feeling it. Because somehow, this is supposed to constitute an argument for excusing games journalists, and it just fucking doesn't. It just fucking doesn't. It's just ass cancer. And you did say that. For people like Rami, it's worse than just seeing themselves as activists. They see themselves as the people who are supposed to be the ones gatekeeping the industry, while they cry about being gatekept, which is really just being corrected when they're wrong. Also, what the fuck just happened? Brave, please! There. Fixed it. Fixed it. Right, so that does it for Sterling's takes, but this is a long-ish thread. Not that long, it's just mostly pictures. Because this is a chain of replies. These two are to Sterling, and then it goes down here addressing stupid-ass arguments. So, stupid argument number 2. I've always wondered why hardcore gamers care so much about the skill of games journalists. They play the same game 14 hours a day, while journalists have to play damn near every game they can get their hands on. There's gonna be a drastic difference. People obsess over difficulty want to feel like their hard work is validated. They want to see someone score 100% completion and offer them a job at games company and publication, and instead they go with people who have degrees in journalism. That's not at all what the how the fuck it is, and I already am gonna go through each of them because I responded to both. Okay? Question. Why did we, the gamers, roast Dean Takahashi for being dog shit at Cuphead? Why does Dean and others continue to cope out of their fucking minds because they failed at a task of read, response, and action with on-screen guided instructions in a tutorial mission? This is an obvious rhetorical question, but I'll explain the reasoning why. It is the exact same reasoning. It is the exact same reasoning why Dean Takahashi jumped into a mention of mine and sent a link to me in tweet form of an article explaining the context in his own words around why he was struggling so bad at playing Cuphead when I roasted him to dog shit the last time I brought it up. Give me just changing the data. Takes a second to whip out because the computer's old and shitty. There we go. Here we go. Boom, right there. Right there. The last time I roasted Dean Takahashi about this was on February 1st of last year. At the same time, I roasted the dog shit out of people who were talking hot shit about Call of Duty. Specifically because they were upset about the fucking, Road of Death thing in Call of Duty Modern Warfare. It's the same dumbass take that Sean made. What I said then was, Dean Takahashi has demonstrated not only an amazing lack of understanding to the skill of gaming, but also to the nuanced understanding of its creation, going so far as to tell developers and publishers what and how they should be. But it gets a little bit more deep than that, right? On its surface, a games journalist complaining about mechanics in a game, and then going on to write an article about, I played this game, but I chose to use the cheat engine so I could cheat my way to the end of the game to tell you about the end-game content experience, is an immediate disqualification for me to care about your opinion. Not only do I discard your opinion, I ear and dog ear and bookmark it and remind myself to never read a single piece of fucking word that ever comes out of the mouth or mind of a person who does that. For the same reason, a school will fail somebody who cheats on a test. Games are man-made challenges. Yes, some games can be extremely fucking stupid. Like, I'm not gonna imagine and demand a person who's a game journalist to learn how to do katana style in order to truly experience a private server of Guns the Duel. Because that is the definition of, say, a very high dexterity cap ceiling, where the floor of skill is way too high for a casual person to demand, right? Because that's like Melee. The top 8 players of that game are always going to be the same top 8 players, because they're the only ones that care to learn, and they're the only ones that care to know. But at the base level, a person who fails to play through a tutorial mission, then making excuses for themselves, and their job is games journalist, is expected to have a modicum of understanding, patience, and ability to at least attempt. Make a full attempt, not a half-baked attempt, not I turned on the game and I struggled a little bit, so I turned it off and I started whining about it in my article. Actually turning on a stream, playing it for the first time, and then documenting every single struggle and every single interesting tidbit that they feel is necessary to report on. This is what Dean Takahashi failed at when the clip went viral. Because Dean Takahashi is struggling at a tutorial mission that doesn't just have it as a building repetitious game of skill. The challenges don't change. The cycles of attacks, the properties of damage, in Cuphead, they don't change. The game is fundamentally a boss rush. But in the tutorial mission, you're struggling, you can't stop, pause, give yourself the concern to just reset, try again. You're just gonna fail for 23 minutes straight on the tutorial mission and the first running gun stage? No, you get roasted for that. There's no amount of writing an article and saying, here's the reason why I sucked dick. It's in your fucking job title for you to be a games journalist. You're gonna be playing a whole bunch of games, and you're expected to at least understand the genres and do some research in them. And if you want to do your first blind look playthrough, have the ability and temerity to stand and weather not just a criticism, but the trials and the challenge it's going to present you, and deal with it. And Dean failed at this. Games journalists fail at this. It shouldn't need to be explained, right? But this bullshit of gamers care so much about game journalist skill, yeah, they do. Because if a game journalist reviews a game badly, and that review goes on to tell people false information that then prevents them from being able to enjoy a game, or outright just skipping a game entirely, they have fundamentally been de-fucking valued, deranked, scammed, and stolen from. Imagine if I was to read a review from Dean Takahashi about Risk of Rain 2, which I'm playing right now, which is why I used it in this thread. And he was to claim anything about skill, or anything about Risk of Rain 2, to me. If I took him at his face value, I deserve to be fucking laughed at, because it's ridiculous. But moving on from that. This bullshit. People who obsess over the difficulty want their hard work to be validated. No. That's just half true. Because you're being dishonest. Because half of that is correct, but the other half of it, and the reason why, is dog shit. Okay? It's just as simple. It's just as simple as a trans athlete argument, right? Trans men or trans women competing against the biological comparison of their type. Let's say trans women competing against women. Biologically, you have trans women competing against people who they are fundamentally, because of the rules of the biodimorphism, or if you were to listen to stupid-ass people like Extra Credits, bioessentialism, are stronger, faster, and capable of higher feats of agility and athleticism than their counterpart. And to judge them in the same field by the same metrics is not just unfair to the trans women, because of the fact that they will outright dominate the competition, but to the women themselves, because they will never have the competitive chance to ever be able to beat them. Period. That's not political, even though people try to claim that it is. That is just a fact of life. That is biology. Video games succeed by removing the biological quality and, functionally, the overall athleticism in the traditional sense from the equation. You don't need to be faster than me. You don't need to be bigger than me. You don't need to be smaller than me in order to grab a fucking keyboard and mouse and play a fucking video game. Now, if you want to get into hand-eye coordination, precognitive skill, hard reading, and just general reflexes and action per second and action per minute, just APM in general, yeah, that's a form of gamer athleticism, you could say. Dexterity, overall, you could say. But it has nothing to do with wanting the hard work validated. It has everything to do with the exact same thing you'd expect from a person who's competing at the highest level in a field. You are expecting people, even here, or here, or here, to lower the bar so that other people can have an advantage over them in ways that are intrinsically unfair to the experience, especially when it comes to game design, which is why players continue to do the bullshit of conflating gaming difficulty with gaming accessibility, which is exactly what Luna-chan has done in this thread. Originally what I said at the time was, if I can complete at the pro level, why the fuck should the bar be lowered by design for somebody who literally cannot compete in the genre? The counter argument I thought up at the time was, but we're not pros, we just want to play the game! Risk of Rain versus The Last of Us 2. The option screens before any gameplay and the infamous accessibility settings. What is the difference between these, if any? And it really is not a gotcha. It really is that obvious when you look at it. This is the heads-up display options for notifications for quality of life for Last of Us 2, as well as its controls for the difficulty settings. If you note, these are completely different than what you'd expect in a normal game, and that is by design. That is a choice that was made by Neil Druckmann and Naughty Dog. Because this is functionally a cheat menu. Also, side take, the problem with these kinds of games is not that hard R gamers like myself don't want to play them. It's that I don't see a reason for me to play it, because these games are sold on their experience and are sold with the expectation that you're not playing specifically for the gaming challenge. Yes, there's difficulty mode. There's difficulty settings. But that's not the reason why you play Last of Us. You play The Last of Us because The Last of Us is a storyline game. Just like Eternal Darkness, just like Final Fantasies, and exactly just like Legacy of Kain. You could have an entire discussion about the difficulty of how to play games like this, and how they're designed, and what they're supposed to do, and the controls, and the camera. But that's not the argument here. The argument is very simple. It is the difference between a game that is designed to whoop your ass and tilt you out of your mind, and a game that was designed to tell a movie plot the exact same way as Until Dawn, the exact same way as Heavy Rain, the exact same way as a bunch of games before and after it, and will continue to be exceeding after it into the future. It's just, it's not comparable. It just really isn't. Second. Getting my shit. Showing it real quick, just in case people aren't familiar with it. Now, the part that comes after this, to explain the other side of the bullshit that they tell here. Because I just said pretty much all of this shit right here. Both of these games, for what they have accessibility and preference features. And yet, Risk of Rain 2, the actual difficult video game, has 3 types of difficulty. It has scaling difficulty, which happens over time, and is constantly happening while in gameplay. You have the sliding scale difficulty, which is the difficulty that has options. In Risk of Rain, it has options that affects the gameplay settings, how much damage reduction you get, how much player regeneration you get, and how quickly the scaling of the base difficulty increases, which also increases things like gold and whatnot. But games like this have a third hidden quality, which is what people love to refer to when they try to refer to games as being the Dark Souls of their genre, or the Stardew Valley of their genre. It is what we like to call baked-in difficulty. This is when the difficulty isn't something that you can physically change. It's something that is intrinsic about the game's design. If you are somebody who prescribes to the head-ass take of games as art, which they're not, but if you're someone who prescribes themselves to saying, oh no, this game is art, it's beautiful fucking art. If you prescribe yourself to this mindset, that games are art, and you then say, and that's why we need to make the game have an easy mode, because I can't beat normal, and hard is way too hard for me, you can put the game down. You can do that. No one's stopping you. No one is stopping you. Not at all. Because the problem is that by demanding that the game needs to have an easy mode, whether you go with the idea of the sliding scale difficulty, where you scale how much damage you take and how much damage the enemies deal and how much they take, or you talk about changing the difficulty in that which you're removing, in the case of Cuphead and games like that, you're removing things from the enemies. What's going on with the music? Computer, please. I'm begging you. Oh, I see. It's one of those live sets. That'll get my nerve real fast. But the problem that you see here, when it comes to this, is when you're starting to think of games that have baked-in difficulties. And to use Cuphead as an example, but also use Dark Souls as an example. When you start talking about changing intrinsic values of the game, like, oh, if that boss just didn't do that one particular attack that I never learned the properties or the tell for, if we just take that out of the game, then I will finally win it. You are physically fucking with the vision and design of the art that you're trying to enjoy. It would be one thing if, in Cuphead's case, you have 2 different game modes, where you have the actual full moveset and then a reduced moveset. And the only way for you to truly complete the game is to play through it with all of the moves intact. But if you wanted to have a more relaxed, easier time period, you could play with the other setting. If these two options are available to you, that is no problem. It is like the difference of, for those who paid attention to what happened, with Ashley Roboto, when she cried, upset, angry at the internet, and when I roasted it, and then followed behind it with examples of why this is dumb, when she was upset that somebody came into her chat and made fun of her because she was playing an easy playing Kingdom Hearts. Realistically, players like myself do not actually fucking care if you are playing a game on easy. If the setting is there and you choose to play it and you're playing for story, that's not the problem that I have. The problem that I have, and we'll get into it later, but I'm just overviewing it here now. The problem that I have is when you're a streamer like the one that was getting his ass whooped with Keizu playing Longsword, aka Weeb Stick, in Monster Hunter Rise. The safest, air quotes, safest weapon in the game, with 3 forms of counters, 2 of which don't require wire bugs, and both which are based on proactive and reactive gameplay. The EF/ combo, which allows you to be able to predict enemies' attacks and punish them, and immediately be able to follow it up with more damage. And the Foresight Slash, which allows you to put on heavier levels of pressure and reactively, defensively, react to monsters' attacks. You dying against the slowest monster in the game that telegraphs every single action he does, even with the least telegraphed attacks, it's still easy enough for you to be able to dodge and react to in time, if you take your time to learn how they operate, learn the mechanics of the game, learn how your weapon works, learn the enemy's movesets, learn the tells of each of those attacks, take the actual time to breathe in between actions. If you complain and say, the game's too hard, it's way too difficult for me, you need to make this easier, when the game's baked in with difficulty, then you demand it needs to be changed for you, what you're saying is, I'm so horrible at this game that I can't take the time to use the training room, to use the settings, or to adjust my learning to be able to challenge and meet and over-succeed through the difficulty that I'm experiencing. So much so that I'm going to complain and say, no, it's not my fault. The game is broken. Fix the game. That's when I start laughing. Okay? That's what gamers actually have a fucking problem with. It's not a matter of a gamer wanting to be an elitist and wanting to make sure that nobody can take away their 100% achievement. Granted, you could say they would love to have bragging rights. Say somebody has difficulty or a challenge in a game, like say for example Atomic Crops. They just had an update for the game, in the Doom and Bloom update, which makes the game so much more fun and quality controlled, while still preserving and even enhancing the difficulty of the game, not by taking anything out of it, but by adding shit, and slightly tweaking the power level of things that they added. Now, there are power-ups in that game that if you take damage, you lose the power-up that you gained. Some of those power-ups includes, your crops will not need to have water, but with the caveat of, they will burn if they don't have water and are thirsty, which changes widely the way that you play the game. Or having a buff that gives you infinite fertilizer, but you're being chased around by a monster that is slightly difficult to kill and will continue respawning every single moment when you're on the playing field. Things like that are choices that you make and that you can take as a give and take because they come with some level of risk. When it comes down to it, players want to have the risk. It is the difference between wanting to torture yourself and basically walking through it. You could say it's preference, you could say it's design. For the sake of argument, with how I framed it here, it is the difference between having it and not using it, and it being foisted upon you, and someone coming to you and taking it away from you when there was no goddamn problem to suit someone else's pleasure. If The Last of Us 2 can exist, and Risk of Rain 2 can exist, and both people who want to play those games are playing them, why the fuck would you demand that it be changed to suit a single person? You don't have to play the game. And yet at the same time, You're coming to others telling them that they need to change the game design because the industry has to grow up, the industry has to change. Really, what you're asking for is for the lowest common denominator to be given the advantage of winning without having to practice. You want the game to play itself, which is literally what a relaxed cinematic experience does. That's why for the HD remake, or rather, excuse me, the HD remaster of Nocturne, there is a merciful cinematic storytelling mode in the game that you have to buy. And when you buy that, it allows you to have your cinematic experience. People who still want to torture themselves on hard can still torture themselves on hard and have to go get the buffs to fight Matador. And at the same time, players that just want to see the story of Nocturne, experience the different endings, they can do that too. That, in reality, is the problem. But nobody wants to talk about the problem, because that takes it away from them. I have not played Manifold Garden, but like I say to everybody who brings up games that I haven't played yet, that I may or may not be able to play on the computer, if my computer can run it and can stream it, I will play it. If it can't do it right now, it goes on the list. I have a very big backlog. We're gonna get there, I promise. One of these goddamn days. But, moving from that. Christina made a follow-up thread. Coming off of this. I'm still the ultimate centrist when it comes to easy mode debates. I'm against harassing players for choosing an easy mode. I'm against harassing devs for easy modes. If you value games as an art form, you can't turn it... This is the same take that I had already, but she said the same words that I already agreed with. You cannot turn your back and say, these games need an easy mode when it comes to design choices. However, if the game has an easy mode, I don't think it's fair to harass people for picking the game's options they already had in it. And I followed up by saying, that's the secret. Everyone is a centrist on difficulty. The problem is stupid people and intentional bad faith journalists and developers for conflating difficulty to play equaling an accessibility problem. And therefore, accessibility means that you need to lower the bar for us, and you're a bigot when you don't. The only thing that has changed within the last year is that it went from if you don't to when you don't. If you don't lower the bar for us, you're gatekeeping us and you're being a bigot Nazi chud, and you deserve to be attacked for that. To when you don't. And if you don't already do it expectantly for us, like the greedy fucking whores that we are. Therefore, and thus, anyone who is in agreement, is a Nazi chud gatekeeper who hates minorities and the disabled. It couldn't be farther from the fucking truth. And they hate when we bring that up. And it's that last part on what I'm going to continue going through from here. Every single time that I pull out old reliable, the gamer, the mastermind, the absolute fucking Chad, quadriplegic gamer that was playing Sekiro with an adaptive controller, with button remapping, and not just winning at the game with all the available options given to him, like using the stealth attacks to immediately reduce the health of monsters in the field and kill them outright, or choosing to go about the fights the hardest way possible, not using the stealth, going and using the most aggressive damage setups and damage moves. Hold up real quick. Because it should still be the same person who did both of them, if I'm correct. Yeah, no, it's not. No, yes. Yes, I thought I had it in this list right here. No, I was correct. Yes, it is. Limitless Squad. For somebody like Limitless Squad to show that not only does proof of concept prove out, right? Not only does he prove that we don't actually need an easy mode, nor does it require one ever, but at the same time, they can challenge themselves and use the hardest setups possible. What is being said there is not, now let me pull out this quadriplegic player and show that you're so bad. That's not actually the argument that's being made, right? The argument that's actually being made when that happens is if I am number 10 on a bracket, right? and you're a new player that says, oh my god, I can't believe this game is so hard. It's such unbelievable bullshit that I can't win. Why are you telling me to get good? I shouldn't have to get good. The game needs to be made easier because this is just too fucking hard. And I'm number 10 on the bracket. And someone like Limitless Squad is number fucking 1 in the world. What that means is not, well, you see, the quadriplegic players can play it, so I can't you. What it actually means is, bro, I'm not even the best player. He's better than I am. And I'm able-bodied. Why are you so fucking bad? That's what's being said. It is me, and all the quadriplegics, and all of the disabled players. Both disability in the form of not having full control of their body parts, and disabled in the form of something like what Liana Kirchner has. Not being able to look at the screen for very long. Having arthritis in your hands and wrists, so you need to have specifically designed ergonomic controllers. Button remapping. For those who are, like myself, dyslexic, although I can use a full keyboard, creating a setup that allows them to be able to know what button they are actually pressing, and make it easier for them to be able to create setups with completely different peripheral designs. Like, say, a controller that responds to my eye movement. Or, for deaf players, a application for their cell phones that when they are playing the Destiny 2 raid, the newer one that came out, I think it's the Forsaken mods, or the Forsaken expansion, to be exact, where they were the first ones to beat the raid because they were using an application that allowed them to be able to give each other directions on what they needed to do for the puzzle-specific inputs on a particular part of the boss phase in the raid. Things like that are not taking away from what already exists, but are additional add-ons and enhancements to an experience that is already there. That is enriching the playing field and keeping the ground level, not lowering the bar. Removing things, removing any amount of content, even changing a single attack by making a player-made mod that removes it, is a choice. If it is not a developer choice, it needs to be a player choice. If you download a mod that makes the game easier for you by design, whether it be through cheats, or be through just modding the game entirely and removing the enemy's ability to do a specific thing at a specific point in time, that is a choice that you get to make. You, yourself, alone. I don't need, nor should I be forced to join you with that. Period. If it's part of the game design, and you care that games are art, then you intrinsically changing the piece of art that you have means that if you go back on your word, and you try to force everyone to do it, you are a fucking blithering idiot. It's the difference between a player like myself cursing themselves every single time they make a single mistake and they lose a god run, to a player bitching and moaning and whining saying that the game's not fair, when somebody with their same background, their same skill level, and their same amount of knowledge takes the interest not just to look up the wiki, but just experiment on their own and learn what's possible so they can be able to apply that to their gameplay. Because nothing's stopping a games journalist from doing the exact same thing that I do. Because every single time I start a new game, I read every manual, I read every tutorial, and I absorb information. Because that's how you solve puzzles and problems. Games are man-made. They are basically a man-made puzzle box. Unless the designer made something, I guess, impossible by design, or not possible through an intended method that they did not want people to get confused on. You know, one of those puzzles that's so difficult that it borderlines on moon logic. Not looking at something like, say, Monkey Island, but something along those lines. Something you would only be able to figure out through a very, very obscure level of knowledge that requires having already either played a game in its franchise series, or having played a different game that it draws roots on, or even requiring some kind of puzzle that's a pop culture reference to another franchise or another game entirely. Barring something like that, if we get the same game, and we open it up within the same hour, and we're playing it day one, and we're streaming at the same time, there should be no possible way that I, as a streamer, and someone else as a game journalist, shouldn't have the ability to experience and get to the exact same shit and have the exact same struggles, but have different ways of dealing with it. That's not to say that you need to come up with the same answer at the exact same time, but there's no fucking way you're gonna tell me that I, a normal fucking consumer who chooses to stream his gameplay, is going to be somehow intrinsically better and more elite than a game developer or even a game journalist playing their game on stream at the same damn time. And you're telling me that somehow they can't do what I'm doing because, well, they have so many games in their docket, they only have so much time to play. That's not an excuse. If you're talking about something that's supposed to be a game that loops, like, say, Risk of Rain 2, I'm not expecting you to become a master of every single character on the chart. However, I am expecting you to be able to at least use the base level character and make it decently into a run. You know, not dying every 30 seconds, restarting the run constantly. I expect you to be able to do the basic mechanics, understand the system of the game, and follow through. That's the bare minimum. That's it. That's the bare fucking minimum. Granted, not everybody can be Thorin. Not everybody can be Richard Lewis. Not everybody can be Sophia. Granted, I think Sophia's probably the one who sets the bar as far as it goes for games journalists. Because she platinums the games that she plays. Barring that you don't have some broken bug that makes it impossible to get a trophy. But she platinums the games that she plays. She plays the shit out of them. Same way that I would. That should be the bare minimum, in my opinion, if I was the person who set the goddamn standards. But just being able to play serviceably for a 15-minute, 10-minute review, that's good enough if you want to go on a broad, base level, lowest common denominator standard. Past that, I don't know what the fuck struggle you're actually dealing with, right? It doesn't matter if it's Risk of Rain, it doesn't matter if it's Diablo 2 remastered, it doesn't matter if it's the original Diablo 2, it doesn't matter if it's a Diablo, it doesn't matter how old or how new the game is. If we can be given the exact same advantage, and this gets even worse if you're being able to trounce somebody and you're like me and you're doing it on an old fucking computer. And that argument will continue to stand until I get a new one. There is no fucking way, if given level playing fields, you're telling me that you're struggling when we have the exact same resources. Because that's what gaming is supposed to do. It levels the playing field for everybody. There is no fucking way. There's just no fucking way. You cannot convince me. Some people could say, well, maybe I don't play this genre, and because I don't play first-person shooters, I'm gonna have more difficulty playing COD. Get off my back, bruh. Bro, there's a campaign. There's training missions. There's AI bots. Almost every single game that exists now is getting some kind of a practice mode. And if it doesn't have a practice mode, I can promise you there is a AI operant system in play. There, in fighting games, there are training dojos. There's also comm battles. There's you playing against your friends. Given all of the options that exist, there is no fucking way you're telling me that you can't get some level of play experience. Yes, some things are going to have to be basically on-the-job learning, so to speak. But no, there's just no fucking way, bro. There's just no fucking way. Not for every game genre. For some game genres, like fighting games, I can give you a pass, right? I can give you a pass on fighting games, because that's where high dexterity comes into play, because that's where all of those actual gaming athleticism problems come into a greater factor than most, right? You're talking about moment 19s, where you have so many frames, and you have to counter to do a parry perfectly in order to stop somebody's damage from going through when you're on just enough life to get chipped out if you don't block correctly. What game am I talking about? Several. Don't worry. But like, if you are experiencing problems with anything that is so simple that a 6-year-old can do it, you don't have any excuses. Take your ass back to where you came from and start over again. Name one of the games I'm talking about. Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3, Dark Souls Remastered because they changed the mechanics on how things play. Fighting games, you're dealing with NRS systems, which is Arc System Works, NRS Games. Things are designed by people like NetherRealm, so Injustice, Injustice 2, every single Street Fighter, every single Guilty Gear, every single Bloody Roar, every single Soul Calibur, games like those. Games like Risk of Rain 2, which can be roguelikes. Games like Skull, Dead Cells, and the like, which are roguelites, and Metroidvanias. Hollow Knight. Games like Diablo, games like Diablo 2, games like Diablo 3, any kind of game. Literally what I'm saying applies to any kind of game. The only one I'm willing to give pass on are fighting games, which are the ones I just described. I'm not talking over you. You asked me to name one. You didn't say what one was. Don't accuse me of things that I'm not doing. I'm reading everybody in chat. Why would you need to just pick one? Ridiculous. No, let me read up and make sure I didn't skip anybody. I already read this one. I already read that one. Wait, is that guy actually quadriplegic? You are referring to Miss Thotter. Excuse me. Whoop. Bring it back up here. Here. Whoop. Bop. Beep. Bada boop. Pow. You're referring to Mr. Limitless, correct? One momento. Yes, Limitless Squad is quadriplegic. This is them playing on their own gameplay. This is 2 years old. I would fail to see how nobody would know about this already, but just in case you don't believe it, bing, bop, bada boom, pow. Oop, too many times. There you go. There you go, Drennan. Go ahead and click that link. You can see it for yourself. I'll be with you in a minute, Bandit Mage. Mentions that flooded by people who got so angry that I'm against an easy mode in Bloodborne and Soulsborne games. They tried to make personal attacks and all as if I time my ego completely being good in games. I get that a lot. Most people can get that a lot, depending on whether or not the argument makes sense or not. I'll get to that one in a second. Put a pin in that one, Marvin. What's going on here? I assume at this point you already know what's going on. There are also games like Way of the Samurai where you can't beat it the first time if you don't have it on easy. Depends. It depends. There are games like that, actually. Although, it's a difference between the game is very difficult to beat to the game is impossible to beat by design, because you're not supposed to beat it, quote unquote. You're supposed to unlock more content. Dead Cells is like this. Dead Cells has a story, air quotes, of a kind, where playing the game gives you new runes, which then allows for new modes of travel, and also for new methods of fast travel, so to speak. Where the move, like say for example, vine climbing, gives you access to more and more stages. And then as you get more and more runes, more routes throughout the maps open up to you. And then those routes and those attacks, which also can have evasive and combat utilities, will affect your gameplay. It is possible, because people have speedrun this, to do a fresh file and win the game from having no unlocks and go all the way to the end. It is possible for you to do that. Very hard, because now you're talking about what's the percentage chance of getting a particular item that's going to enable you to do that for a run. And that's when you start getting into things like vine running. That's when you start getting into things like, how can I abuse said mechanic to be able to glitch something out in the game, or how can I use said mechanic to get around a specific obstacle of some kind? When you get into speedrunning like that, that's when you start opening up like the world of difference between people like Linkus and people like ZFG is his name. That's when you start getting things like that. That's a completely different topic entirely. But when you start getting to shit like that, that's when you start figuring out what is the difference between them, right? Put a pin in that one too. We could come back to that one later. Yes, mods are okay. I am against easy mode because it takes time away from the devs that have to create the game. It depends. If it is included into the game already, and people want to use it, the example I used earlier was Kingdom Hearts. If you have the difference between an easy mode, a normal mode, and a hard mode, for Kingdom Hearts that's easy, normal, and proud, or I think in further games past 2 it's called critical and proud, or critical plus. And you're not dealing with a scaling mechanic like in Dark Souls, where New Game Plus 5 is slightly, if not moderately more harder than New Game or New Game Plus, barring some kind of continuation feature like that. If a game has normal mode in it, and easy mode in it, like say Binding of Isaac, not the original one, but the Rebirth, which is now in its final update form of Repentance. If you have normal and easy and hard, and there are inherent difficulty bonuses that come to playing on those difficulties, where you cannot unlock said item unless you play on this difficulty, or you cannot unlock this feature unless you play on specific difficulty, and you don't care about things like unlocks, and you just want to play the game. If you play on easy, and it's included in the game, no fucking problem. If you invent a mod so that you can play it on your own game, and it leaves the game itself available to everybody unchanged, that's fine too. But if you play on that difficulty, and then you say, oh my god, the game's too hard, again, that's where my laughing starts. But if you force the developer to make something that removes that from everyone, and then you blanket force that change onto everybody who already owns that game. For examples, Dark Souls Remastered, which intrinsically changed the way that PvP worked in the game by taking away specific spawning points in certain maps that were popular for PvP interaction, like that of Darkwood Basin, where now every single time you invade, unless you are part of the Forest Protector Covenant, you effectively will get ganked. Every time, all the time. Because instead of randomly spawning at any of the multiple random spawn points, which included the one that I'm thinking of, which is the one that happens right in front of the stone door as you are leaving from Anor Londo. As you're leaving from Anor Londo, going through the normal way, that does not require going around the back door and using the shortcut method, which can be done, but it's difficult to do because you can accidentally die to fall damage if you don't do it correctly and you don't have enough health to survive. If you were to use that method and to use that door, and you wanted to try and invade somebody as a Dark Phantom, or even as a Blue Phantom, or even as a white-ish Phantom, or as a Gravelord, you effectively will always 99.9999999% get ganked every time, because you will always spawn at that door. So if somebody wants to go grinding on Phantoms with a pack of 4 people, including the host, you will lose. Period. Guaranteed. That is one of the things that they did to the game. Granted, they added things like having the ability to create fight clubs by giving the ability to allow yourself to be invaded or not, along with being able to just do offline play and not have any invasions whatsoever. But, assuming that you wanted to play the way that the game offers for you to, and that could be seen as intended, if you're playing online, and you wanted to actually use the password setting to create a fight club, and you wanted to only play within a certain soul limit, which allows you to limit who you actually pair up against, so that you're not going up against modders and hackers, and you're playing honor dueling, as it was originally intended, or honor dueling, as it became, with getting ganked and having to tank spank people. If you were to play the game how it was with Prepare to Die versus Remastered, the Remastered experience is nothing close to the Prepare to Die edition, which is why there are different categories for them. Because one of them is the full experience as writ. The other one was fucking neutered, and it's ridiculous how neutered it was. This will never be this, and this will never be this. And comparing the two differences is night and fucking day. That's why that's specifically tailored like that. And that is something that physically changes how difficult the game can be, especially when it comes to interactions that can only be possible through invading people, or through mechanics that require you to interact with multiple players or with players in some way. The exact same thing kind of technically happens with Borderlands, and Borderlands 2, and Borderlands 3, and its DLC, where it is limited, but outside of game scaling, that is a concern and a problem. That happens in single-player games, that happens in multiplayer games, and it happens very much so in games that have a competitive element to them by design, like, say, MOBAs. The arguments are specific where they are, so you have to really think about how it goes, but it is what it is. What is the song name? The song name is Legend of Lo-Fi. It's from the Game Shop's Mega playlist. One moment. Boom. There you go, baby. Going down. Now we're getting to where Band Mage jumped in. Name one. Okay, stop. You're wrong, and I'm happy to explain why. Or just talk over me. You named several. I asked name one. You got some nice milkers for a guy in workout gear. Why, thank you. I grew them myself. Won the MK11. You gonna buy the game for me? Because I don't own an MK11. And unless you're willing to buy it on my Switch, and you have a Switch, that probably won't happen. I'd be more than happy to take your money on League of Legends, though. Or Smite. Did you know that one of the best black people to ever have lived, Malcolm X, had an exceptional friendship with one of the best white people who have ever lived, George Lincoln Rockwell, and the leader of the American Nazi Party? I did not know that. Dark Souls is trash, Smells Rose is way better. How much Reddit gold do you have? None. Vine climbing isn't a move. Inside of Dead Cells, there is a series of runes that allows you to have the ability to move throughout the map, as well as attacks that have combat qualities. One of the ones that you have to get in order to continue moving forward is one that allows you to have the ability of movement through climbing the vines. This adds evasive ability to your arsenal, as well as moves like Detach, which is useful for actually body controlling enemies, which plays an even deeper factor into other things in the game, as well as all the other fucking runes that exist, do indeed add an evasive and combat feature to your gameplay. Why are you lying? Or did you mishear what I said? I understand. I slur my words sometimes and I misspeak, but I was not wrong with what I said. The same argument applies to any game that has that kind of feature. Or you're about to argue that a combat roll that gives you the ability to damage people, or a kicking attack that when you kick people within the shield, it stuns them, or when you kick people into doors and walls, it stuns them, is not a combat maneuver. Because things that add that as base gameplay mechanics, and things that add that as additional effects that you can get to turn on if you get them in your runs, is indeed something that would help you improve your ability to run. The same way as the mechanic on being able to jump high enough in the air and slam down to stun enemies that get caught in the crossfire, or any of the augmented abilities that get added to your equipment as affixes based on whether or not you take a specific item or a specific weapon. There's a ton of these kinds of effects in Dead Cells, actually. I beg you to prove me wrong, considering that that is how the game is originally designed and made and played by French people, no less, which is why it's so goddamn hard. Am I joking? I mean, I was joking when you talked about my bitch tits. No, I'm not. I'm literally doing exactly what I said I was doing, Van Mage. I can see chat here on the screen as I'm reading down, so that I was able to catch up like I just did, and then you have the one that's moving on the screen right here next to my head that shows you your messages in real time. I'm going down your arguments as you're posting them. Would you like to stop molding in my chat so I can have the conversation with you? Or are you going to keep yelling at me from my chat saying that I'm avoiding you when I'm actually addressing you? Come on, man. Come on, man. Come on. I understand, but I've beaten Dark Souls 3 5 times already, and it's a joke. Even Mario Party is harder. Yeah, that's what happens with Dark Souls as the franchise moved forward from sequel to sequel. They took the jank that was in Dark Souls 1, and they improved on it, and then made Dark Souls 2, and then made it the best that it's ever been in Dark Souls 3. So some of the things that would have applied back in the heyday of Dark Souls 1, like lag switching Hornet backstab fissures, isn't as big as a problem as it would be now. But there's more qualities and more elements of gameplay that were added over the time that added to, or either added to or removed or replaced old jank. So that will probably be more accurate based on whatever setups and whatever game state online play is in right now. But the general idea of the argument is what I was going for. Imagine thinking Souls games are difficult. When I say we're difficult, I'm not going to say it's the hardest thing ever. What I'm describing is what the normal player would actually find difficult. I'm going to go ahead and assume that not every person has played a Dark Souls game, or Demon Souls. I'm going to assume that they may not be familiar with the kind of gameplay that it will entail, and it will be a learning experience for most people, especially if they are taking it on for the first time, and they aren't aware of certain things that are basically traps that will be guaranteed to kill them for the first time. Like facing the dragon that's inside of, what is it called? The Undead Burg? Which transitions to the other area that goes directly into, I'm trying to remember the name of the goddamn town. It's the one where you fight the 4 kings after you drop into the abyss. That one. I can't remember the name of it right now. I'm not looking at it. But that one. Things like that will be guaranteed to kill somebody. Some people might find it difficult and hard, especially if they're not capable of doing things like countering, dodge rolling, whatever. If they find that difficult, then that's difficult for them. For players like us, assuming that we're all reasonably good and developed, it may be less hard, or less difficult, or just non-existent whatsoever. For me, it's non-existent. For him, it's non-existent. For you, it might be non-existent, but I can promise you, if I was to call up my friend Chad Mort and I was to ask her to play it on stream, I'm gonna guarantee she's probably gonna struggle at some point, even if I'm in her ear giving her advice. The same way she was when I did so for Don't Starve Together, which is a game that requires some level of familiarity with it because it's the multiplayer port of a standalone single-player game. You're trying to give them Melinda Gates? Maybe. Imagine thinking any video game is hard. Try going 4 or 5 minutes long. If she's rich as fuck. Throw Melinda Gates? Not bad. Maybe Dr. Muffins. So, this is a great listen to you monologue and all. Don't you want to know why you're wrong? I've already addressed that. I hope he's giving me time to catch up in the chat. I know he just kind of steamrolls over everything. Ruckus, what does the blank say? Okay, you aren't answering me when I talk, let me try again. Yo, homie, I feel you, fam, but to be honest, when you out on the streets, it hit different. Why did it ban Jernin? 1 hour of medieval Eminem, the real Slim Shady, lose yourself without me, Godzilla standing more. You looked like a Bodai Cho from Mortal Kombat if he fell in a toilet. Nice. You single? What is the song called? I think I answered that. What is the song called? I think I answered that one too. Ignore me more. Are my questions too hard for you? Please never do that again. Holy shit, I just busted. Oh god, he's good. I will buy the game for you. Picks or GTFO. That milkshake brings all the boys to the yard. We got some guys who will fight you in league. Also, thank you for everybody who followed during that moment. Imagine thinking vine climbing is a move. Sorry, do you damage people when you climb as a vine? What about Custard's Last Stand? That game's pretty hard. Kicking in Dark Souls is not a combat maneuver. Are you serious? Kicking in Dark Souls is a combat maneuver. Because if somebody walks up to you and tries to just shield block the entire time, you will stagger them. And using certain setups with dex weapons, like the katanas, which bleed, allows you to be able to chip them out, especially if you abuse some attacks, like the scythe that may have this a technique, to hit on dead angles. Some attacks, like your R1s and your leaping R2s and R3s, from your weaks and your strongs, and whatever special moves exist, will have a property that allows you to get around people who are just holding block the entire time. And kicking them gives you the ability to get a free hit in that allows you to bleed them out if all they do is fucking chug and block. That is 100% a combat move, as is any method that allows you to be able to fight people using it. Are you sure? Were you there when the combat scene was the highest for PvP combat? Because those games from Peterson and those games from Obaro and all the other people who were big on the quests for hate mail can prove that as false. That's ridiculous, dude. That's ridiculous. When you talk, I reply to you, but you're too busy looking at the ceiling. All kicking does is keep you from dodging. I already answered that. And now we're caught up to where we were before. Never seen a good player from Dark Souls use a kick. Then you probably haven't been seeing those good players. What's your girlfriend look like? Yay high. She cuts her hair like this. Dyes it. Well, man, you know he doesn't have one. That's rude. So what's your parents' relationship like? Divorced? As for my mother and my godfather, their relationship is tight as fuck. They are probably disappointed since he's a race trader. His girlfriend is Oriental. Let's see here. I'm allowing that one. That's based. Don't starve doesn't need familiarity, unless you are brain dead. I've already explained the reason why a person would possibly have a difficult time struggling, especially if they jump into a multiplayer port of a single-player game and understand nothing about the mechanics of said game. Now you're being ridiculous. Who was in Paris? No good players in Dark Souls uses shields in PvP either. That's why the kicks are useless. If players try to use shields, then players who know about the mechanics of what I just explained will use the mechanic against them. If they don't use shields, then they will use a different strategy and a different stratagem tactic that may already be known, or that they might invent on the spot. That does not neutralize the argument of what I just said. Blocking isn't a combat move in Dark Souls 3 either! Are you about to tell me that rolling isn't an attack either, because there's an entire armor that is based around using it as a thorn to make the enemy take damage when you roll on them? There are videos about it. Therefore, only a hindrance, it's not a combat maneuver. Yeah, blocking and parrying is loose in Dark Souls. Save us, hero. Rolling is OP. Indeed. So now that we've caught up to the future, Band Mage, do you intend on continuing this argument? Cool. Let your girl take damage when you roll over in bed. Yes, she do. Yes, she do. How's this working out for you, buddy? We're now in the future. You can now be able to reply to me directly. How big's my dick? Trade secret. Oh boy, this is what happens when I stream at fucking 3:45 in the morning. Alright. God damn it, yo, switch name! You're telling me you don't have the ability to go to my Twitch? The ability to go to my Twitter? Send a whisper? Come on now. I've already posted my friend code on Twitter. Made it very clear. You can be able to go back and use the search function and find it. Come on, man. Come on. Come on! Gonna have to try a little bit harder. What's your Twitch name? I don't have Twitter, by the way. Come on, guys. Come on, what is this? Come on! Give me a challenge! Anyways, moving on to the spectacle of the night. Or the stream, rather. Make sure I have the screen right. Where's my filter? Not that one. Is it that one? Or is it this one? I think it's this one. Show me you my fridge. I'd have to be streaming on my phone to stream my fridge. Our kitchen is fucking atrocious, actually. Let's see here. I think the one that I wanted to do at the time was Resident Evil, but I think I'm going to work my way backwards with the worst of his takes, which I believe was Resident Evil, and I don't think it was Balan. Resident Evil, where's the one for his RPG takes? It's somewhere in here. Where is it? Where are you? Where is it? Where is it? Oh, remake Dunk View. Do that one too. Where is it? Possibly might have to search for it. Not that one, 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 not that one. Where is this video? Not that one. I know that it was the one for Dragon Quest. I'm queuing them up as I'm going. There we go. Are they all subtitled with Dunky? I think they are. Should actually make this easy. Find what it is I'm looking for. Yep, they are. Okay, so Super Mario Odyssey, Final Fantasy Remake, Red Dead Redemption. I don't care about that. Don't care about that. Don't care about that. Don't know about that one. I guess we could look at some of these other ones. Knack 2. He reviewed the meme. Not that one, 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 not that one. Enter the Gungeon. Devil May Cry 5. There's another one in here somewhere. It's the one that somebody told me to fucking look up. I think it was the one that came before, or was it actually Octopath Traveler I'm thinking of? It might have just been Octopath Traveler. Possibly. Maybe. Game Critics Part 2. Is this the continuation of one? See here, Resident Evil, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Dragon Quest, got that one, Super Mario, Enter the Gungeon, and Devil May Cry 5. Yes. Do this.
The older I get, the more
Let's sound up a bit. That does not seem like it's the right screen. Should be the right screen. Is this just looking at the playlist? There we go. Notepad! Hot. Can't see it. Big, that's why. Okay. Go back to the chat. Don't blow a gasket. I'm gonna go ahead and say the band mage is being very autistic tonight. Let's see here. Following since 13 minutes ago. Possibly somebody who I should know. But I'm going to continue to speak in good faith. But I'm not answering that question about Japan's age of consent. Can I see the make and model of your fridge? It's an old one. The one that the people who originally owned this house before I bought it left behind, actually. Really fucking small. Not enough fucking freezer space. The fridge that we own is in what we basically call our workshop garage, and it holds the food that we can't put into the one in the house. My brother constantly keeps eating the food out of it. No synthwave or retrowave. I have to use Twitch-safe music. I'm so sorry. We can't have my playlists. You can't use the ones that y'all send me neither. Because YouTube wants to strike me. Because they keep getting copyrighted by the IRA. Or excuse me, the IRAA. Will you follow me on Twitter? I don't know. Who are you on Twitter? Can I do ASMR? Yes. But not right now. Follow me on Twitter. My handle is SinglePlayerCarl. Nice meme. Alright. Turn this off for a bit. Alright, let's keep going.
I appreciate the bizarre and unique works of art in this world. Resident Evil comes from a time.
Hang on. 2 times speed. There we go.
When big budget games were allowed to experiment and get weird, and this is what makes Resident Evil worth playing today. It's weirdness. However, to get all that goofy, bizarro shit, you are gonna have to suffer through some of the most outdated gameplay I have ever seen. Before I start roasting this game for 7 hours straight, let's pay some respect on these graphics. Dude, this game came out in 2002 on the GameCube. This shit is ludicrous. How do you make a GameCube game look like this? Well, you pull the old Donkey Kong's trick. You cheat. The environments are all pre-rendered images with real-time 3D effects then applied onto them, giving you photorealistic environments with almost no processing power being spent on them, which is probably why the character models and enemies also look really good. The trade-off is fixed camera angles. Don't you ever talk shit on a camera in a video game until you have played Resident Evil. In a single room, you will swap between 5 different camera angles. You would transition from one camera to the next, which causes a little pause, but then are still controlling the character in relation to the previous angle. And you have to understand, this is not a zombie shooting game. The original Resident Evil is more of a point-and-click puzzle game where you are supposed to walk around zombies. What makes this game so intense is that you have to walk around zombies with the controls of Bubsy 3D. If a zombie is really giving you issues, then as an absolute last resort, you can shoot them. You do not get ammo in this game, and on easy difficulty, zombies take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Okay. That's right, fire. From the beginning to 150.
The older I get, the more I appreciate the bizarre and unique works of art in this world. Resident Evil comes from a time when big budget games were allowed to experiment and get weird, and this is what makes Resident Evil worth playing today. It's weirdness. However, to get all that goofy, bizarro shit, you are gonna have to suffer through some of the most outdated gameplay I have ever seen. Before I start roasting this game for 7 hours straight, let's pay some respect on these graphics. Dude, this game came out in 2002 on the GameCube. This shit is ludicrous. How do you make a GameCube game look like this? Well, you pull the old Donkey Kong's trick. You cheat. The environments are all pre-rendered images with real-time 3D effects then applied onto them, giving you photorealistic environments with almost no processing power being spent on them, which is probably why the character models and enemies also look really good. The trade-off is fixed camera angles. Don't you ever talk shit on a camera in a video game until you have played Resident Evil. In a single room, you will swap between 5 different camera angles. You would transition from one camera to the next, which causes a little pause, but then are still controlling the character in relation to the previous angle. And you have to understand, this is not a zombie shooting game. The original Resident Evil is more of a point-and-click puzzle game where you are supposed to walk around zombies. What makes this game so intense is that you have to walk around zombies with the controls of Bubsy 3D. If a zombie is really giving you issues, then as an absolute last resort, you can shoot them. You do not get ammo in this game, and on easy difficulty, zombies take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 shots to win. Actually, 11, 12, 13. 13 shots to take down a zombie. Except that the zombie isn't actually dead yet, because now you have to find the lighter, the canister, and the kerosene. Fill the canister up with gas. Go back to the zombie, pour the kerosene on him, and burn him. Otherwise, he will transform into an even more powerful zombie later. The camera and movement get a lot of shit, but the sick truth of Resident Evil is that those are the more accessible parts of the game. What's really irritating is exploration and the inventory system. Every time you open a door in this game, you have to watch a cutscene of a door opening. This gets old after you've opened 3 doors. To beat this game, you will have to open about 300 doors. You do not want to go anywhere in this game unless you have to, except you do have to backtrack all over this fucking map because the inventory system is a dickhead. You can only hold 8 items at a time, unless you pick Chris, who can only hold 6 items at a time. If you want to save your game, that's an item. If you want to heal, that's an item. If you want to open doors, that's an item. If you want to shoot a gun, that's the gun and the ammo as a separate item. You will never have enough inventory space, and it is a complete guessing game deciding what items you'll actually need unless you've beaten the game already. You'll go, I'm feeling like I'm gonna need a red jewel in the book for this next part. Actually, I should have watched a snake for this part. I feel like every game I've ever played with the inventory system, you have a separate inventory for key items that are needed to progress the game. Resident Evil says, no, that make it too easy. Then you wouldn't even have enough time to appreciate the door animations for each door 7 separate times. If you use too many ink ribbons, that's it. You can't save the game anymore. If you shoot too many zombies, you won't have enough ammo for boss fights, so you'll need to go back, redo everything, or if you really fucked up, you'll have to start an entire new save file. This is why Resident Evil is the worst video game. The stodgy and obnoxious.
Jesus Christ, has a lot of fucking arguments. Jesus. Okay, what was the last one? Mimics backtrack, cutscene transitions are tedious, clunky, and outdated. Inventory management. There we go.
Noxious design choices make
game design management and game mechanics.
Game less fun to play, but far more scarier than a modern game. The never-ending assault with door cutscenes, the cramped hallways, your character doesn't know how to walk, the cameraman is working for the zombies, your bullets are made out of rubber. In Resident Evil, walking down a hallway with one enemy is an accomplishment. There are no checkpoints. If you die, you're gonna have to watch 30 minutes of door cutscenes again. It is terrifying, it is creepy, it is ominous, but somehow also very funny.
There are terrible demons. Ouch! You're wounded!
Walking around by yourself in an abandoned mansion at night in a thunderstorm. The classic horror setting executed with so much attention to detail. The atmosphere is so thick, so oppressive, and then you stumble onto a note written by one of the zombies. Fever gone, but itchy. Today hungry and eat doggy food. Today hungry and eat doggy food. Ladies and gentlemen, the greatest video game. Now, I didn't even know that zombies could talk, let alone write notes down in English like a caveman. And on top of all this, I found out that zombies actually like to eat doggy food this whole time. The slip of paper that you find on a desk, it's such a small part of the game that just completely knocks the wind out of everything. Just from hungry and eat doggy food, you went from legitimately scary to comedy masterpiece. What's impressive about Resident Evil is how it's able to become scary again after you find this note. It's a very slow, methodical game. Half the time you are sorting through inventory or looking at a map, you really get that sense that you are trapped in this mansion, and the deeper you go, the more hopeless things become. And then you fight a bumblebee as an enemy.
Jill, no.
Jill, go. Every single character in this game has the undeniable urge to split up from everyone else. It doesn't matter how fucking crazy this mansion gets.
Okay. I'm gonna hit that one with question marks.
Their gut instinct is always, let's split up.
This mansion is gigantic. We could easily get lost. All right, you two go. Jill, go check it out. I'll stay here and secure our escape route in case something happens.
Okay. Barry!
What the fuck? Barry, piece of shit. Barry just left on the elevator.
Jill, you're alive. Leave this place up to me. Go on ahead.
Fuck no.
Okay. Barry!
Jill! We should split up again and investigate.
Alright.
It's like you have the atmosphere and the dread of The Shining, but with the writing and storyline of Resident Evil, the movie. There is not a zombie video game out there with better enemies than this. If you try to leave through the front door, dogs will attack you.
Shit! Shit!
Birds will fight you. Boulders will fight you.
Ah! What the fuck?
Dracula, gorilla monsters. You fight a gigantic plant. And just when you think you've seen it all, fucking sharks enter the equation. Resident Evil is the perfect mixture of funniness and evil, like the Joker. And it has endured so long that its remake will undoubtedly be remade.
Ouch!
Okay. I don't know what I expected, but that was not what I expected. Jesus Christ. Alright. Dunky arguments. They're on the screen? Yeah, they're all on the screen. Why are you up this late? Your mom's gonna spank you. Okay. So, argument number one. Resident Evil is a classic, but we gotta roast it because it's outdated. That's such a fucking boring take. So is... This is boring. This is boring. This is boring. Boring. This is stupid. This is stupid. Nitpick. 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 Has nothing to do with gameplay. Arguable. Arguable. So. Resident Evil is a classic. We have to roast it because it's outdated. Or is it because you wanted to capitalize on Resident Evil being in the trends at the time and you wanted to trend hop? I mean, yeah, you can criticize the things that the game does wrong, because technically, from about here to here, these are actual complaints of the game. Right? These are actual complaints. That makes sense. And the reason why is because they have to do with things that you physically cannot deal with and change, which is exactly why we talked about what we just fucking talked about. Excuse me. Faces out. So, let's go from, first off, let me mark this. This is not an argument. So, let's go from here. Tank controls suck, camera controls suck. They are part of the survival horror genre. Because they're a part of the survival horror genre, there are things about it that are going to be normal for the game to do. Especially if the game is going to do certain things, and be certain ways, and be certain things. And that is just something you can't deal with. Let me turn the music back on while I'm talking. There's just some things about survival horror that you're going to have to deal with. One of those things is going to be mechanics. So, zombies being bullet sponges is annoying. Zombies needing to make sure that they're dead by doing headshots and in burning them can be annoying. The game making you backtrack can be annoying. The game having constant cutscenes and transition points and parts of gameplay that you can't skip, like in the case of something like, say, Tokyo Mirage Session. Every single time on the original game, when you trigger a combo session, you can't fast forward through the animations and shit like that. And the clunky and outdated inventory management system. All of those things are complaints of gameplay and are fair criticisms, yes. But unfortunately, for the genre, it's not accurate, nor is it actually technically fair in the sense of any realistic argument if you're being fair. If you choose to complain about it by saying this sucks and it's bad and I hate it, the only two ones that it really applies to that I could say are fair complaints is tank controls suck and camera controls suck. I have to give you that one. Like, that's just normal for all those games that had that, especially including Devil May Cry, which I guess is one of the ones that would be complainable too. Although the franchise itself cleaned that up. But tank controls sucked ass in any game where they applied. Vagrant Story, Parasite Eve 1, Parasite Eve 2, all of the Resident Evils. Just because tank controls plus a not reliable camera, that makes any gameplay horrible. But that's fair. That's a fair argument. However, zombies being bullet sponges, even on easy, that's just high bullshit. Like, survival horror. Is not House of the Dead. I can't type. Or Left 4 Dead. You're not supposed to fight every enemy. You're not supposed to fight every enemy in a survival horror game. Because the elements of combat that are difficult to deal with are done by design. You are supposed to deal with it. Because it's just how it is. Just by normal. Just by the state of it being. In a game, if it forces you to have to fight every enemy in a room to deal with them, okay, sure. But realistically, no. Just no. That's not an argument. That's also stupid. Especially for trying to compare an old game that you know is going to have jank in it, because it has jank in it. That's just fucking whatever. There's nothing you can really do about that. Moving on from that. Making sure that zombies are dead requires headshots or burning. While an actual complaint of gameplay, barring giving an answer that's just like, just play perfectly. Yes, it sucks, but it is a feature, or rather, it is a mechanic. That you can avoid using, or mitigate. Because if enemies have inconsistent methods of ensuring that they are put down and stay down, is hard. You can also try to go for the headshots, or you can try to use whatever weapon makes it easier for you to deal with zombies so that they don't revive. Whether that be specific to whatever game it is, blowing them up, using explosives, saving ammunition, and only downing the enemies that you know you can't avoid, basically. If you have to get through them, like say you have to fight a boss enemy, but you don't have to fight all the enemies on the way to the boss, then you don't have to fight all the enemies on the way to the boss. Especially in a game where survival horror dictates that you want to avoid combat as much as possible, but only when combat can be avoided. When combat becomes necessary, that is when you physically do it. Especially if the game's designed in such a way where it wants you to evade combat unless you get something out of it. This would be more common for something like, say, World of Horror, which is exactly the same kind of idea, even though that is a point-and-click game, and Resident Evil is what Resident Evil. There are sometimes in some fights where you just run, either because when you fight them, they're going to do more damage than what they start out doing already, or because you don't have the tools, the skills, the perks, or the weapons necessary to fight them at that time. Barring the game having some secret item that you can get that will give you the ability to fight them directly and be able to take advantage of them, then you can be able to get something out of it. Otherwise, you're just complaining to complain, to be honest. It's not like you're comparing it to something that's like a beat 'em up, like Devil May Cry, where with all of those problems and more, you still get a successful experience out of what started as a Resident Evil game that became an entirely new franchise. Yes, there's jank, but that doesn't excuse you from not dealing with the jank in whatever ways are available, or just simply avoiding that much of the jank as possible that you can get away with getting away with. Which then brings you to the game makes you backtrack, and cutscenes and transitions are tedious. Okay, and unfortunate but fair. At the same time, if the remake / remaster reduces or removes on screen this factor, this is no longer a complaint. And I put those two down as that because Resident Evil being a game that is part puzzle solver, part mystery, and part survival horror means that you're going to have parts of it that will suck and parts of it that will not suck. One of the parts about the game that sucks is that some of the things in the game, like speed running it, requires being familiar with the game itself in the first place. So maybe your first time through, you're not going to have the easiest time through. But on your repeat playthrough, you might be able to be lucky enough, if you didn't do it the first time, to be able to play through, now that you know where everything is, to be able to get something that would make it even easier on repeat playthroughs. Because that's what Resident Evil is played for. Yes, when you first played it, it was jank as shit, the same way you could say anything about any Resident Evil game or any game like this, but on repeat subsequent playthroughs, after you've played through it and experienced the story, and you now understand the mechanics, you can go back and be able to win at those things that you originally did not know. Because, caveat, this is a secret 12th part of it, and I'll get there when I get there, but caveat, if you don't know there's a mechanic that you can use to be able to take advantage of doing whatever to make the job easier, and you just don't know about it, and you just go the entire time without doing it, and it was something that was obvious to you, or made obvious to you, either by suggestion or by pop culture making it something that you were aware of, or the game outright telling you you should do this in order to have an easier time, and you just choose not to do it, that's not a fault of the game. That's just you being stupid, and personally making it hard for yourself. Which then brings us to clunky and outdated inventory management and game mechanics. While an actual complaint of gameplay, it's a product of the time. Judging it by current standards, is bullshit and disingenuous. Voice acting! Yeah, all voice acting was cringe at that time. Some were, some weren't. Can we move past this? It's not a complaint of a game for it to have bad writing or to have bad voice acting. Because you can have some games that have bad voice acting but exceptional writing. You can have games that have bad writing but exceptional voice acting. And then you can have games like Legacy of the Kain that were written in mind to not just be good gameplay, if not mediocre or moderate or just okay gameplay. An immaculate writing, but overall an immaculate franchise because of its inherent writing. Those things exist. Also, I should put this as some. Some, if not all. And some, if not all, writing. And characters are stupid and do stupid things. Sure. But that's how the game was made. That's... if we want to say that this is bullshit, this is bullshit, this is bullshit. If I were to go down this list, I would say up to right about number 11, number 10, number 9, number 8, number 7, and number 6 are bullshit. So about half of the things that he actually complained about, while at the same time mixing actual complaints with haha funny man jokes. I'd say about 50% of the video is bullshit. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that he knows it. So whatever. But that's dog shit. That's absolutely ass. Moving on from that. No idea how to save my changes. Next video. Final Fantasy 7 Remake.
Starts out on a thunderous with that iconic zoom out shot of Midgar. Camera keeps pulling
Back. Boom.
Final Fantasy VII starts out on a thunderous note with that iconic zoom out shot of Midgar. Camera keeps pulling back. Will Smith, Men in Black. Anybody order a fucking pizza? The combat is so weighty and visceral, knocking robots' heads off with a big ass sword. The graphics are the coolest thing in the entire universe, and the soundtrack. Oh my goodness! Then the characters start talking, and you go, oh no.
We will not submit to intimidation or violence, but work together for peace and prosperity. That is how civilized people change the world.
That's right.
That is the Shinra Creed.
Square has a history of naming games whatever they feel like. Final Fantasy III is actually Final Fantasy VI Kingdom.
Okay, so that's already out the gate. Just shit. Voice acting. Jokes about the NA Japan naming scammer.
Kingdom Hearts 3 is Kingdom Hearts 10, and Final Fantasy VII Remake is actually the first 5 hours of Final Fantasy VII except 30 hours. What we have here is a Hobbit scenario where you take an established story and stretch it way out because of money.
Okay. This one, I think, is probably going to be the fairest take that he has for this one, but Final Fantasy VII is actually a part 1, but is much longer than it should. Put quotes around that one. Plus additional minigames and rewrites. I'm gonna put this one in as a 3A because this is just me speaking, or put this as 3A and this is 3B. Because it's not that it's not actually the game. It's not Final Fantasy VII. It's a sequel to someone wanted to make for nostalgia.
It's not a blatant abomination like this, though it is bad, just in a more subtle way.
Don't you think I know that? Ah!
The real Final Fantasy VII is one of the landmark games in video game storytelling. It's not perfect. You still have embarrassing dialogue and some bizarro, convoluted nonsense, but the broad stroke story is pretty engaging. Group of friends go on adventure / revenge mission / human folly. I think what made this game stick for so many people are those big twists. You know, Sephiroth burns down Cloud's village. You know, fuck, yeah, I'll burn this whole shit down. Then he freaking impales your girlfriend through the chest with a samurai sword, so you kill him, but it doesn't even matter anyway because a meteor crashes into Earth and wipes out humanity. These heavy, solemn moments are what make Final Fantasy VII, and yet the overall tone of the game is lighthearted and entertaining. The townspeople are always cracking jokes. You fight a house that shoots missiles and a Triceratops tank, and the villains are super over-the-top evil. And you go to a theme park and team up with Kate Sith, a fortune-telling robot controlled by a cat-like creature. It's a goofy game with serious moments. The remake is a serious game with goofy moments. Old game, you grind the combat to get to the story. New game, you grind the story to get to the cool boss fights.
Okay. They overmade or overdid the presentation. You're grinding to get to the cool shit.
Home and stay there.
You know I can't do that.
It's one thing to read weird dialogue, but when you actually hear it, you go, huh?
The mayor. Hey, shush, I'm on the phone. The mayor.
Huh?
What about the mayor?
What'll it be for you today?
The mayor.
Nail? Sorry, we don't have any here.
You're gonna train in the sim at a time like this?
The mayor.
Are you looking for the mayor?
The mayor.
The remake's voice acting is stuck in this mysterious limbo zone. It's not robot mode, but it's not good either. Characters can be convincing at times.
Writing. Again.
But then ruin the illusion with their horrible anime grunting. This doesn't matter at all, but the president of Shinra actually says the wrong word in one of his voice lines and they left it in. He said Cloud was bathed in mana.
The eyes of one who has bathed in mana.
It's called Mako, idiot, not mana. What a terrible game. As a whole, the story feels structured.
That's not a complaint. That's unit picking for humor, but eh.
So many things happen in this game which contribute nothing to the forward momentum of the narrative. The more you play, the more obvious the distinction between old and new becomes. All of the highlights of this game are lifted from the original, and everything that is kind of bland or terrible, that's the new stuff.
Again, you triumph!
Let's start with Jessie. In the original game, she has 3 lines of dialogue and then gets fucking killed. In the remake, she is a major character, and every time she talks, I want to die.
Welcome home, honey. Took your sweet time.
Shit talking. One of the best waifus of remake.
Psych.
Since I despise this character more than anything, naturally we need an entire chapter dedicated to explaining her backstory. Whole game, you have this corny love triangle between Cloud, Tifa, and Aerith. Ooh, who will he pick, the brain dead one with comically large boobs or the pushy fun one?
Where you going? Weirdly perfect timing.
Wait a minute. Is someone watching us?
In the remake, they take it to the next level. Love rectangle. Now he has a third girlfriend who is like a knockoff version of this one, but they can't kill her off yet, so she dies instead, except nobody cares.
I really wanted to believe we could.
Yeah. You owe me a pizza.
This game has no sense of drama or urgency. They keep undercutting everything from the original story. Whole game, Shinra drops a plate on the entire section city and kills everybody. This game, Shinra is gonna drop a plate on the city, but hold on, we have to evacuate the entire town. Aerith, go save Barrett's baby. Come on, we gotta save the baby. Go, go! Why are you going so slow? Go, what are you doing? Yeah, be careful. Be careful with the doors.
I wouldn't say that's much of a complaint as it is a noticeable problem of the game. Because it is a under the hood stealth sequel. The fake tension and drama. It's more noticeable. And can be grating if what you wanted was a remaster and not a remake. I'm going ahead and say that this is probably the most reasonable take out of here.
Who are you?
Grab the kid and get the fuck out of it. What are you doing?
I'm a friend of Tifa's. Where is she?
2 weeks later, everyone is evacuated after retrieving all of their valuable belongings, and the plate is slowly lowered down by cranes. Remember the bodyguard NPC in front of Don Corneo's mansion? No? Well, now he has a backstory. Everyone has a backstory, because that's how Peter Jackson makes this game. Look at this robot hand. In the PS1 version, I walked over the robot hand.
Okay. They gave everyone a backstory. Slash, or I guess IE.
hand in 1 second. In the PS4 version, you have to take control of the robot hand, take your partner, put her up on the cliff, go, switch to the other robot hand, pick up the box, put the box in the wrong spot, switch back, do it, loop-de-loop, pick her up, put her down, wrong spot, switch character, switch robots, insert this too. The great moments of this game are buried in a sea of filler hallways and elevators and levers and computers and platforming.
Okay, that's bullshit, because that's something that you can choose to do. That's not a complaint of the game. That's something you're pushing yourself to do, because you wanted to add it. However, everything else you just said is accurate.
There's enough explosions and awesome sword fights for 10 games, but there's no emotions. You don't feel anything. It's so flat and fake.
No charm, no wit, no skills.
I've got skills.
Cloud, up top.
You can do this. Come on, he's going for it. He's almost there. Yes! You did it! Then we have Sephiroth, who is not seen once in the intro to the real game because the developers are savoring that moment for a big, spectacular reveal. This game, Sephiroth shows up every fucking hour because he has no life. Square has to remind the audience that they do have the rights to Sephiroth in Final Fantasy VII. It's not a fanfiction.
Because it is a stealth sequel. A fan wink. Best parts. An example. Sephiroth. Everything else is just there.
This is the real game. See, there's Sephiroth. Because this story is a 30-hour intro sequence, we are still being introduced to all new characters and major plot developments up until the very final moments of the game, where it is revealed that Sephiroth is a mere puppet to the true antagonist of Final Fantasy. A shadowy figure emerges from the depths of hell, Tetsuya Nomura. It's in this final chapter that he starts to work his devil magic. Those ghosts we've been seeing the whole game, that was time travel ghosts. So all of the major twists, remember the ones that are very integral to the story? That would be sad if those happened. So instead, you fight Sephiroth in outer space to reverse reality because nothing is anything. This is a chimp brain story. That being said, there are no random encounters in the remake, so it's still a pretty close call between these two games.
Okay. Hello. How you doing, Wonder? Alright, I think that was the last take you had. Let's cheer through this shit. Non-opinion. Or rather, not an argument. The same retake as the same shit from before. Not an argument. Not an argument. Not an argument. Not an argument. We'll get there. Alright. So, not an argument. Not an argument. Then we have 3A and 3B. Ah, 3A and 3B is where this starts to come together, because now you actually start talking some fucking sense. Final Fantasy VII Remake is actually a part 1 of a story that wasn't told complete, but it is much longer than it should be, plus additional minigames and rewrites add to the story. And not actually Final Fantasy VII, it's a sequel to Final Fantasy VII someone wanted to make for nostalgia purposes. Both of these are actually low-key related to another point in the future of this list. I think that would be... Actually, it's related to several. It'd be connected to number 7, it'd be connected to number 8, and it'd be connected to number 9 and number 10. But the first one. Yes, this is what many gamers asked for. Don't complain to us. I didn't do that. And that's for both of these. And the reason why is because this is what happens when video game journalists and people who don't play video games and care more about taking a game and its arguments about its characters, like the never-ending fucking breakdown of storytelling, and video game storytelling in this story being all the shit that happens in Disc 1. Because commies on Twitter love to claim that soldiers are actually eco-fascists and eco-terrorists fighting as Antifa against the monopolistic company. That is a brain-dead take that requires the response insert Disc 2. But if you take the whole thing overall and you say, bro, this ain't Final Fantasy VII, I don't know what the fuck this is, but it's certainly not Final Fantasy VII, yeah. That's what happens when you let Reset Era be the ones that dictate through video game journalists and through people like Remy as Molly what they think the industry should be. You get cutscenes, and you get QuickTime events, and you get parts of the game that have been made into puzzles, when originally it was just a set piece of a iconic piece of the environment. That's what happens. There's another game that did that. It's Final Fantasy XIII. They put Final Fantasy XIII into what was supposed to be Final Fantasy VII and called it Final Fantasy VII Remake, because they remade the game. for a modern gaming audience. That's what they sometimes tend to do with some games, get remade or remastered. When they get remade, they do what we call an under-the-hood stealth sequel, or an under-the-hood remake, where they have the hood of the game already open. They're already updating everything. They're already fucking around with shit. So how about we take this piece that we don't like, and we throw that out, and we replace it with something that we want to put there. It's technically what Vivarious Games did to Crash Bandicoot, the Insanity 3-pack trilogy. It's also what they did to Diablo 2 Remastered, or Resurrected, they call it. It's what happens with a lot of games that have that done to it. This is what happened to Spyro, this is what happened to Crash, this is what happened to Diablo 2, it's what's happened to a bunch of games that have been remade and remastered, because it happens with both. Technically, it's supposed to be a problem that only happens inside of remakes, but sometimes remasters do this as well. They go underneath the hood, and they fuck with the game, and they add shit that wasn't supposed to be there, or wasn't there originally, to try and update it to modern video game standards. And then, when they do that, you end up in a situation where you look at it and you're like, bro, why the fuck is it like this? Or they take something out of it that was there, or they lessen how it can affect you, like the example used earlier in Tokyo Mirage Sessions, when you use Encore Edition and you're playing in combat and you decide to turn on the feature where you have the quick cutscenes for every single session attack, you can be able to experience faster gameplay. And yes, that cuts down on the tedium of having to watch something that didn't necessarily need to be there. The original game should have had a feature where you could be able to increase and turn on and turn off those cutscenes, because it's like playing something that had the exact same feature like that, which was The Legend of Dragoon. You also had that in Final Fantasy as well. You didn't have to watch the cutscene of every attack, but if you wanted to, you could watch Darts do his Dragoon transformation. You could watch every single character of the game do their transformation, in fact. Some of the most iconic pieces of gameplay came from those kinds of things, before you even knew what the fuck Power Rangers were. And in the case of Final Fantasy VII, or for some people, when they jumped in on the PS2, Final Fantasy X and Final Fantasy X-2, whatever game you jumped in with, where it was the most recognizable part. For me, it was Final Fantasy X, and then I went back and played 7, and then 4, and then 1, and then 2 twice, and then 3, and then 4 again, but on the DS. When those games got updated from their originals, that happened as well. And it really is on a case-by-case basis, but in the case of Final Fantasy VII, oh yeah, they did that to the game. And there's nothing you can do to stop it, because that's just unfortunately how Homura decides to fucking roll sometimes. And yeah, they did do that indeed to the Salmon Max Remaster. They changed the jokes that shouldn't have been fucked with, which is a fucking sin. And you can't purchase the original game on Steam either. That's an argument for physical game downloads and physical game purchases, but emulation bad. We're not allowed to do that. Instead, I need to pay $50 billion fucking dollars to get an original copy of the game because somebody wants to try and pump the market. But yeah, that I'd say those are fair takes, but at the same time, that's a problem of the industry that you were roasting earlier with Resident Evil. And this one came came before that one. So you made this one knowing that, and I'm assuming this is going to come up with the rest of them, but you made this one and that one knowing this, and you still tried to lay that at the feet of the developer, when that's actually at the feet of the industry standards as a whole. It's not the fault of gamers for that. It's never going to be the fault of gamers for that. I mean, you could blame gamers, but it's not the gamers. Because the gamers are not the ones that suggest those kind of changes. The people who worship The Last of Us 2 are the ones that make those changes. So, you're gonna have to hold the L on that one. Which then brings us again to the bullshit. Or some bullshit. They overdid the presentation. You're grinding to get to the cool shit. Really, this is just... you want to get to see the iconic shit, but there's all this jank here. But with extra steps, which is what I explained already here. It's the same problem as this, but it's a little bit different, right? They try to match story beats where they do and where they can, but then this plays into the arguments here with these, right? So let's get there. That's not an argument. That's not an argument. Now we get to 7 through 10. This is why I said this is the most reasonable take. Because it is the Under the Hood stealth sequel, the fake tension and drama is more noticeable and can be grating if what you wanted was a remaster and not a remake. The reason why you have the problem with 4, as you do with 3A and 3B, is because of 7. And also technically because of 8, 9, and 10. But specifically 7, most of all. They are playing up on nostalgia. So because they're playing up on nostalgia, they're going to play up the parts that you want to see remastered and remade. And they're going to try and add things from earlier or later in the franchise to try and incentivize the parts of it that people may or may not like. This means having automatic combat, where the game basically plays itself. This means having, rather than turn-based combat, having the intermittent active combat system, which would be more recognizant in a game like Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross, which technically you can't really put that at their feet for doing, because that's what you chose to do with games like Final Fantasy XIII, which, please reread statement I already made. But it's the same problem, but different source. If you were to say this shouldn't be here, this isn't Final Fantasy VII, what someone will tell you is, well, they added the feature so that those who wanted it could have it. I think you are able and allowed to make it the old system, or you're able to use a more traditionalized wait and response kind of gameplay, but to my memory, you are going to have the action element of the game and still have the turn-based part of it, because it's based on the same kind of refresh system that would have been in Final Fantasy XIII. Or Lightning Returns, if I'm remembering Lightning Returns correctly. Because in Lightning Returns, you had a similar-ish system, but different. In that game, you had 3 combat setups that were correspondent to your garbs. And your garbs had specific attacks associated with them, and you created a 3-part schema for your combat. For here, it's more like you have your standard normal attacks, and then you have the skills that you choose to equip them with their materia. And then the gameplay plays out from there. It's like playing an updated version of the more modern Final Fantasies, but still keeping with the kind of aesthetics you would have expected from the game. That's the gameplay, and that's an entirely different problem. That's really up to preference. But, story-wise, fake tension and drama, where it feels bad. Yeah, that's also on the industry. That's what you get when that happens. It's reasonable as a complaint, and if you left it at a complaint, then it's fine. But if you start nitpicking it because you're upset that it's slow and tedious and that it's not what was originally there, that brings you right back to fucking 3A, 3B. Which then brings you to number 8. They gave everybody a backstory. Yeah, and then also, that's modern game design now. I'm gonna put that out as waifuification. Everybody simping over the girls, especially Jessie, because of the up-to-date rendering technology, where they literally took the wife that was used as the design for Jessie and make her look the way they make her look. That is part of the industry deciding to move towards Making sure that a game is popular, not necessarily because it's a good game, and not just necessarily because it's a hard game to play that's enjoyable when you master it, but specifically using the exact same tactic that is used with Persona to sell the game, which isn't necessarily the story elements, and it's certainly not the gameplay, but rather the characters, and the characters' personalities, and how good they lend themselves to porn and fan art. Like, it's fanwink. Pure and simple. Put that on as / fanwink. Yeah, it might be annoying for you if they did that because it adds to the tedium on top of it, but that's industry standards, so I'm gonna just copy the same thing there. Oh, fuck. There we go. So yeah, that's the complaint of an industry that's doing the exact thing that you're trying to roast the Resident Evil for, the original. You're roasting the originals for having outdated game systems, but then you're complaining about the updates that were done by the industry trying to profit off of the things done shittily that you don't like. It comes to mind, are you going to complain about the parts of Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 Remake that you do and don't like? I imagine you might. Speaking to Dunky, as though he's listening. I imagine those would be things you could complain about or you could praise as well, but it's kind of bullshit when you decide to do it tongue-in-cheek. Because, again, mixing joke with criticism, but if you decide to take the EFAP route and you actually analyze the take for what it is and not look on the surface on whether or not it's supposed to be taken serious or not, but rather if it's an argument that makes sense, none of this shit makes sense to complain about if what you're doing is saying jokes that are supposed to be true. Like, you can complain about it, it's a fair complaint to have, but this is what you asked for. If you're willing to make jokes about the originals and you say, oh my god, this sucks, how fucking old, how fucking archaic, what a dinosaur, and in the same breath you're like, bro, why didn't you just give me the game? Just give me the game, give me the original, bro. What are you doing? You can't complain about it because that's the industry. People like you are the ones that have made them want to do that because they wanted to try and make it the lowest common denominator. So when they make it the lowest common denominator and they shut up something that shouldn't have been touched or should have been handled much better than what it was, you don't get to make haha funny man jokes. You don't get to turn around and say, man, this could have been better if I could have made it. I know what I could have done. Well, you did. And if you want to, go ahead and make a video game. I know I have. And trust me. Trust. It ain't the same. It ain't the same to make the takes as it is to try and incorporate them. Granted, if you were to take these and somebody was to make a mod that changes that, much like I was talking about at the top of the stream when we were going over the takes before, if you choose to analyze them there, then that's something that you can address, that's something you can enjoy, and that's something that should be paid attention to in the development process. But once you go through development, and then you go into processing, and you make the damn thing, people are playing it, if it doesn't work out the way that you would have wanted it to, if you tried to make something really, really good, and gamers just didn't interact with it whatsoever, or outright mocked it the way that you're mocking them, again, you don't get to complain. Like, it's the most nitpickiest nitpick that you could nitpick out of a nitpick. So, like, what you want from me? I mean, what you want from a homie? Moving on, next one. But before I do, they did the same thing to 7 Max. I read that. The worst part is that you can't purchase the old game. Talked about that too. This game is for modern audiences, aka Reset Era and blue checks that don't play games. I personally would like it if the blue check marks that talked about video games actually streamed, so that you could actually compare and contrast their video games and their video game experiences and their overall quality of gameplay, and actually compare and contrast them as experiences, the same way that you could for somebody like myself when I play a game from completion, beginning to end, and then like record it. Because this is a separate problem to go along with what I was talking about earlier when I was talking about streamers and talking about people who give takes and then just not at all putting in the effort. If I can put in more effort in a single stream, let alone in a stream covering something from beginning to end to make sure that I get the full game experience before I then go on to write a video review, edited or not edited, I would think it would be valuable that I put in more than enough time to make sure that even if I'm making jokes about it, and I choose to insert jokes with actual criticism, if I were to just give a straight down, here are the facts, here's the shit you have to expect, here's what to look forward to, and here's whether or not you should buy it, if I'm going to be willing to do that, I have to be willing to at least take the slings and arrows that come from trying to incorporate that into what I have to say, because that will be my perspective, and if it's my perspective, I have to be responsible for what I choose to associate with that experience. So, say for example, I take my gameplay experience of Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I compare it to Dunky's. We shouldn't have the same experience and the same reaction to things. If we do have reactions that are similar, then it will have more credence and more weight than if he just decides to make some shit up to say it for clout reasons. Because he knows people watches his takes, and he knows they're going to take his word as gospel, and therefore they'll repeat the dumbass shit despite not knowing whether or not it makes any goddamn sense. Be that as it may, I would value, and I do value, the fact that he shows that he's splicing in gameplay that he's made. So at least if those are his reactions and his takes, even if it's something being done for comedic effect, it's something that comes from his personal take. Rather than somebody taking his video and saying, well, here's all you need to know about the game, despite them never having played it. I would appreciate if they did that more, that you could actually suss out what's right and what's wrong. Moving on!
Everybody in the entire world hates RPGs. This is a universally accepted fact. So
Alright, here's something that pissed me off. Boop. Ding.
everybody in the entire world hates RPGs. This is a universally accepted fact. So why would I ever subject myself to a game that nobody enjoys? Well, it has a funny blue guy. This is how I pick what games to play. Dragon Quest XI Echoes of an Elusive Age S Definitive Edition is a PlayStation 2 game with the combat of NES game. You embark on an epic journey around the world, assembling your party of heroes in an attempt to acquire the 6 Dragon Balls. If there was a program that could generate JRPGs automatically, this would be the default product. You have your comedically over-the-top voice acting.
What? That's ridiculous!
You have a guy who gets amnesia. You have people getting mind control. You have a cringeworthy stripper character in a game aimed at children. All of the stupid shit is here. But what sets Dragon Quest apart is its restraint. It's not going for insane twists. It's more about taking time to set up these episodic scenarios and then slightly challenging your preconceptions. Turns out, and this is gonna blow your mind, turns out you are the chosen one. Yeah, the Luminary, and only you can save the world. I know, that's pretty crazy. I think this is the first game to do that. The protagonist is a stupid purple dumbass who can't talk and needs a haircut. The true main character is actually Sylvando, who is a circus performer that helps you fight a gigantic sandworm, and then you have to defeat him in a big horse race. Also, he is the gayest man of all time. Morning, darling! I'm talking Mondo gay, you know what I'm saying? He's like a big, loud-ass gayzilla. He sails around the world with a naked muscle dude and then dresses you up like a peacock and starts leading a gay pride parade so that he can go beat the shit out of a dragon with a speech impediment. Sylvando is as awesome as he is obnoxious. There is also a grandpa character who is a magic wizard but is also a master of karate and is also the king. Also, he likes to have a porno magazine. For me, Dragon Quest XI is 2 games of varying quality duct taped together. The first half, which is a lot of fun, and the second half, which is grindy and kind of lame. For the fun half of the game, I would walk around these scenic landscapes and fight a monster every time I discovered a new one. The enemies of Dragon Quest are by far the best part about the series. The slimes. Oh, the slimes. How can you not love these guys? It's so cute.
Monsters!
They even turned him into a controller. It's the worst shit I've ever seen. Look at the code. Look at the bat. Oh, the bat. He is so goofy. Come on, you gotta give it up for these bats. Come on. Oh, but then you got Stump Chump, ladies and gentlemen. You have masterful characters like Fun Ghoul and Devilman that jumps out of a treasure chest. It's the animation that really brings them to life. Look at this crazy motherfucker called Cruel Cumber. He's a big-ass cucumber, and when you beat him, his spear flies into the air and impales him. Not only are there no random encounters in this game, the enemies in the world are so easily avoided that who you fight is entirely in your hands. I would go into a dungeon with 70 monsters and fight maybe 6 of them just to see the new enemy designs, and this playstyle was completely valid until a certain point. When I hit the octopus boss, he just did not give a fuck about me. He even started one-shotting every guy in my party on every single attack. This is where Dragon Quest said to me, no, you are playing this game wrong. This is now World of Warcraft. Go and grind XP for 3 hours. In the back half of the game, the pacing is slowed down to the point of tedium. You are going to hear this song a lot. Is it over? Can I walk? I can understand the laid-back appeal of this type of combat where you just sit back on the couch, tap a button and breeze through enemies, but the shit is beyond excessive. The game would be so much more enjoyable if you just fought 10 or 15 tougher enemies and then go on to the boss, instead of having to farm hundreds of punching bags that present 0 threat. It is so blatant.
Oh god, it's worse than I thought it was gonna be.
about wasting your time. Let's say I need 1,000 XP to level up. Well, how much is this guy worth? 2 XP. What about old Platypunk? 8 XP, 5 XP. Whoa, now this guy's pretty big, 25 XP. Come on now, what about Bongo Drango? 33 XP, 35, 20, 22, 37. Then you run into a metal slime. Wanna know how much he's worth? 2,010 XP. Who the fuck makes this game? Dragon Quest XI is toothless and charming. I wanted more beautiful music, more wacky characters, and less.
Oh, wait, mocking voice.
Filler combat. It's 25 hours worth of game stretched out to 40. It kinda sucks, but on the other
25 hours of game stretched out to 40.
hand, you can fight a guy called Booga. I love it and I hate it, so I guess I'll just barely give this one a 3 out of 5. Just out of respect for Booga.
Jesus fucking Christ. How could one man be so fucking wrong? And be confident about it? Alright. Everyone hates RPGs. No, just you. And everyone else doesn't want to get immersive. It would be one thing to say, well, you don't have to like video games and that's your take, and you can dislike the genre as much as you want and still hold on to the position of, well, I want to try to play the game so I can buy one that I actually fucking like. But everyone hates RPGs. You know that that's already a reaching argument, which I guess is for comedic standard too. But even if it's just you that dislikes it, bro, you gotta stop complaining about voice acting. Like, in this case, with Dragon Quest, for this game, they specifically forewent the normal standard that they usually do for these games and how they record the voice acting, and they specifically went and found British theater groups and recorded their audio with theater actors. So, when they're being dramatic, like you expect these games to be because they're games with plot, and the plots are the they are the JRPG standard, which is honestly what this is actually here. That's actually that's like the 0B of this, but no, you hate JRPGs in general. But in the case of voice acting, they made the voice acting the way that they did, so that you could be able to enjoy the story for what it is. It's meant to be a romp. Dragon Quest has always been like that. Even when it was still Dragon Warrior. Even with Dragon Quest 1 through 3. The ones that are heralded as the best parts of it, that made the franchise what it was, that originated these things. Even then, that's a wild fucking take to make, and you know it. Which then brings us into the game as grindy. Duh. And duh. X2. 4 and 5 I'm gonna answer at the same time. Duh. X3. And here's why. And also duh. X4. All of these are duh. All of them. All of them are duh. And I'm gonna tell you why. And why I'm answering this at the same time. The game is grindy. It's a JRPG. The game is going to be long. By nature. That's not a complaint. That's not an argument. That's the genre. If you don't like JRPGs, stop playing them. And if you're going to keep torturing yourself with them, stop complaining when people then point out to you, that's just how the game franchise is made. Stop complaining. Stop bitching. But at the same time, if you don't grind, you'll be underleveled, and the game should just let you power level in less time. You have identified in your video already why this is bullshit. Right.
and charming. I wanted more beautiful music than 10 XP. Who the fuck 1010 XP?
You know that the monsters give different levels of experience. And you know because you went and you looked. So, because you know that metal slimes give more experience, that is the answer to your problem right there. If you want to power level faster, so that you can do less grinding and not have to take so much time and tedium to get up to a fair enough level to be able to fight a boss if you're struggling against the boss, if you're not doing a challenge run, where you're trying to do the least amount of leveling, the least amount of grinding, in the fastest run possible. If you're just playing through the game and you want to win against the boss, yes, you're going to have to grind. If you are stronger and you have access to more skills, you will complete the game faster because you will do more damage, you will take less damage, and you will have better equipment so that you can do more damage and take less damage. And you'll have more skills that are available to you that will allow you to shorten the tedium, like having a steal skill that allows you to steal from the enemy and get an item that could be worth a lot of money that you can then sell for more money, or allow you to farm with a skill, in the case of the metal slimes, if they're still designed the way that they should be. It's more susceptible to things that are guaranteed attacks that will take out their very, very low health, or are guaranteed to be almost instant guaranteed hits that will hit for a decent amount before they start running from you in combat, if you're lucky enough to not get screwed by RNG, to be able to kill them, to be able to decrease the tedium of leveling. All of those things are features that the game has available to you and has always been available ever since it jumped to the franchise on the PS2. You referenced in your take there Journey of the Cursed King, Dragon Quest VIII, which even then, yes, Metal Slimes operated there too. And yes, you still had to go through the story of the game, and you had to go through all those things to get to all the places that became operable game areas, including the end part of the game, and experiment with systems like the crafting pot, and have to go find items that, if you don't get them in time, can be lost to you forever. Same way other JRPGs and even Western RPGs have done. These are not complaints of the story, these are not complaints of the game, that is just the fucking genre. It's the same here in Dragon Quest as it has always been in Star Ocean, or in Phantasy Star, the ones that aren't the online versions. It's always been like that. That's not complaints of the game that you can levy at the fucking genre, as though it is a problem with the damn thing. That's just bullshit, and you know you're speaking hot trash when you say that. There's no way that you could read that and try to pass it off as something other than what it is. If you don't like the fact that you're gonna have to do some grinding, and maybe just a little bit of in-game research, if not off-game research, and saying, okay, where is this area of the game where I can fight this monster and have the most consistent possibility of doing the battle? Like, that's... You know that's hot. You know that's dog shit. Come on. Like, you know that's bullshit. But then past that point, then you get to the game is stretched out. If you choose to go the slowest way possible and not level, and not do whatever grinding will be required to be at level to fight everything well, if you actively ignore the game telling you in the most overt ways possible, like in the hallway, in Final Fantasy XIII, the story stops itself to tell you, yo, this would be a really good time to start power leveling. If you ignore that, and then you just keep dragging your feet because you chose to avoid doing what was very obvious for you to do because, I don't want to do it. That's not a fault of the game, and that's not a fault of the genre. That's just the fault of you being stubborn. Why does it just put you in the fucking game? All of these things are designs and quirks. If you're not willing to work around them or accept them for what they are and just say, okay, I'm gonna have to develop a new set of skills for this than I would with Call of Duty, all this hogwash has to stop. It just has to stop. You just have to stop crying. I'm pretty sure you've had this take for every single one of them that you've done it on. You just have to stop crying, Dunky. Right, next.
5 out of 5. Holy shit. Mario is the king of video games. We all know this. Time and time again, Mario has just completely fucking annihilated every other game on the market. And for the past 7 years, I think Nintendo has struggled to live up to that impossible level of expectation. With Odyssey, Mario is back to reclaim his throne right off the bat. Boom! This sweeping orchestra knocks you in the fucking ass and shoots your soul into the stratosphere. You can turn into a chain chomp, wham, go up the waterfall, turn into a fucking T-Rex. Come on! How the fuck can you not be playing this game right now? There are influences from everywhere, but to dwell on them would be a disservice to Odyssey, which is truly exciting because it's a whole new thing. Every level functions as a platforming jungle gym while also serving as a hub to smaller, more linear challenges. You have so many options to traverse. You can throw your hat and bounce off it. You can roll down hills like fucking lunatic. You can triple jump, throw your hat, dive into it, bounce off, throw it again, dive. You can capture a hammer, bro, wait for his little bounce, then big bounce, jump out of him, wall jump, dive on top. There's so much crazy shit in here, and yet Odyssey still feels like it just barely scratched the surface of what its mechanics are even capable of. So, I am now switching my most anticipated game from Mario Odyssey to Mario Odyssey 2. Instead of squeezing the potential out of everything you can capture, it's constantly moving on to the next idea.
You can be a fort. Oh my god, you guys, you can be an electrical wire. No way. You can be a Goombas. Bye-bye, Goombas. This is the greatest game ever created.
Odyssey revels in a rich sense of variety. One moment you're rolling around in this Tim Burton-ass moonlit hat world, and then the next level you're zooming around a frozen desert as a bullet bill collecting purple coins so that you can buy a cowboy hat for Mario. Every kingdom has its own brochure, its own atmosphere, its own music, its own enemies to capture, and then after you beat the game, every single level gets repopulated with even more challenges. It's not great because you can become an onion, it's great because once you become an onion, you notice how many possibilities you've just opened up now. Look at this wall. If you want to, you can go in the pipe, turn into 8-bit Mario, goof around here, jump out the top, or you can just go pop, hey, get on top like that. Odyssey is always indulging the player to play the game in their own way. In fact, you only need 120 moons to beat the game, 500 moons to get the real ending, out of a total of 830 of them. Come on. Now, not every single one of these moons is a win. Some of them are just sitting there like, come on, really? That's a moon? Likewise, some levels feel pretty tame compared to the wild originality of everything else, but even in these less inspired levels, there are moons in here that will just floor you. The obvious crown jewel of the game is New Donk City, where I was actually born. It's an incredible setting that just bounce around and you can go off this taxi, swing on a street like the walk signals are coin blocks. You can fling yourself between the skyscrapers, drive around on this little scooter, hop through a crowd of people. Every alley, every building, every manhole has something for you to discover. And it all culminates in this musical finale, which will go down as one of the coolest, most uplifting sequences ever in a video game. Mario Odyssey is not at all what I expected, but I loved it anyway. It's the ultimate collectathon that is in equal parts comedic and wondrous. It's the kind of game I imagine other AAA studios look at and go, what are we even doing over here? It not only brings dozens of new ideas to the table, but executes them with a childlike whimsicality. Even after you think you've seen everything it has to offer, the surprises continue to pile up. For real, if you can play this game and not feel some kind of emotion come over you, wipe yourself off, man, because you are dead.
You can be a tree.
Oh boy. That gives me not anything to fucking work with. However, fortunately, I have words. Ultimately, this entire video is him sucking off Odyssey. Which, I guess you can do that. The game is fun. And yet. There are parts about Odyssey that are going to be difficult for people to get around. I've already seen some of them. One of them is that the game is going to be difficult for people to get into with understanding exactly how much and how little they want to actually do. Another part of that is going to be the fact that out of all of those potential impossible moons that you could or could not complete, the game itself is large, and all of it's going to be context-based. Granted, it's a game that kids can play. At the same time, for some people, myself included, there are going to be people who are going to look at this game and say, hard pass, not interested, don't care. I literally played this game for 3 hours, and then sold my fucking copy back to the game shop. That's how bored I was. It's not my thing. That's why I didn't make an entire video complaining about it. It's not for me. And it's weird, because I own Super Mario, I own Super Mario, all of them. I own 64, I have 64 on the DS. I have the remakes that they've done, or rather the fucking ports that they've made of them. I have Sunshine, the original. I have the modded versions of it. I have the port. I have Galaxy. I have Galaxy 2. I played the shit out of Galaxy 1 and 2, because I had to. One of the only few games I had. In fact, it wasn't even technically my game. It was my sister's then boyfriend's game. And I played the shit out of it. Snuck it in my bedroom and played it every single night because I had to. It was that fun. And yet when I picked up Odyssey, I did not feel the same burning sensation that I did when I played fucking Super Mario Tennis. I didn't have the same feeling when I played Mario Golf. Neither the Game Boy handheld version or the console versions. None of the spin-offs, none of the other main titles, other the first-party title ones, not even the Olympic Games ones. It didn't give me the sensation of, oh, well, this is a game that I might not play a lot of, but then I play a lot of it, you know? It wasn't something like, say, Castlevania Judgment, where it draws you in over time. When I picked up Odyssey and played it, I just didn't feel what other people felt. And that's okay. So if he wants to suck this game off and not really have any criticisms of it, and it's just his take, then that's his take to have. I think Odyssey is a fine game. It's just not fun. It's just not for me. I think that's the most reasonable take out of all of them that he's made. There's not really anything in there that you can really complain about because it's all left up to player interpretation, which is one of those things I was talking about earlier. It's one of the games where you can play it however you want to play it. You don't have to do what the game puts in front of you. It's a choice. And even in there, especially when you're getting to the speedrunning side of things, which is the part that I was looking into it for, which is why I don't care so much for it, the quality of the speedrunning community and the talent and the mechanics and the tricks that can be done in it are to my liking. But it is not the flavor or the bop that I would like. Because of the tedium that is associated with it, and because of the just inherent nature of speedrunning as it is now, for the company that you have to work with in order to be able to actually be decent as it, just being shit. Which I guess is less on the fault of the game, and more on the fault of the community surrounding the game. And my desire to not be in it. Meh! But that one now is a meh. Which then brings us to the second to last one.
I have been playing Enter the Gungeon on and off since 2016. I would pick it up, go, hey, this is pretty cool, die, uninstall the game, and eventually come back to try again 4 months later. And the reason for this is because this game is just straight up fucking horseshit. It is unacceptably hard, and most of that torment can be attributed to the fact that if you die, you go all the way back to the start of the game. There is nothing more disheartening than losing all of your progress and having to start again from square one. Of course, the catch is, next time, you might make it a little further. Progression in this game comes in a few subtle ways. The most obvious ways is just you learning the enemy attack patterns and room layouts, but you also unlock prisoners and guns that will help you inch closer towards the finish line.
It may have taken me 45 hours, but I have just beaten the game, guys. Now, let's see what I can unlock.
As the title suggests, there are a lot of guns in this game. There is a barrel gun that shoots fish. There is a t-shirt cannon. There is a literal pea shooter. They brought in the noisy cricket. You have a gun that turns people into chickens. The shotguns dare you to get up in a dude's face and blast it for extra damage. The sniper rifles leave these awesome paper trails when you fire. Other guns, like the Super Meat Boy gun, will fill the entire room with buzzsaws. You have stuff from GoldenEye, Metroid, Mega Man, Blade Runner, Judge Dredd, Quake, Metal Gear, Halo, Dead Space, Earthworm Jim. You have a Stinger missile that shoots beats. You have a gun that is a lowercase letter R, and when you pull the trigger, it goes bullet. The gunfights are insane. You have projectiles and debris flying all over the room. You can kick tables over for cover. Sometimes there will be books on top of the table that will absorb a few shots. Explosive barrels can be rolled into enemies and shot. You have chandeliers hanging over you that can be knocked down with a lever. Enemies will hop in minecarts and shoot you while driving around the room. There are so many layers to the action on screen with so much information being hurled at the player that when you first start playing, it will feel daunting. If there is one refuge from the game's ruthless difficulty, it is in its goofy and charming visual style. Everything in this game is guns. The currency is shell casings. The snake boss is called Ammo Condo, so naturally he attacks you like this. The enemies themselves are bullets, and then they actually shoot you with their own guns. So you have to dodge those bullets that the bullets are shooting at you by tiptoeing through these tiny gaps in between their attacks, or rolling through them while simultaneously shooting your own bullets out of your gun, which may in fact be a bullet that shoots out pistols. Do you see what I'm saying? Enter the Gungeon is the kind of game you'll appreciate the more you play, with combat so intense and satisfying to master that I still feel compelled to go back even after completing the game a dozen times.
This is another one where he basically licks the shaft a lot. However, I think this is the fairest one of all. One where he's actually speaking from experience and is also being fair while he does so, instead of just shitting on it, to shit on it. Because I've actually played a lot of this. I have yet to try Exit the Gungeon, which I think I should get on my Switch if I can, but I should probably get Enter the Gungeon too if I can as well. But the game is hard. Guaranteed. You have a lot of guns and a lot of learning with style that you're going to have to adjust to. It is hard to learn, hard to master, but it's satisfying the entire way through. And of course, the swallowing sounds of the lick down he's giving the game. All of those are fair. The only thing that I could say with it is that the game does have a tutorial. There is secrets in said tutorial that can help you make the game easy. And this is another one of those games that if you were to play it through and actually successfully beat it the first time through, with absolutely nothing to it, you would, and could, have a better time with it, for exactly those reasons. If you were just a gaming master, and you learned over time the tactics and stratagems that had to be done in order to be able to be successful, it would be easy for you to do. It's not going to be for everyone, I can guarantee that. from having played it enough myself. Granted, for me, I never really uninstalled it, but I definitely got mad several times when I got sent back to the beginning, especially off of some bullshit that was because of lag, because this computer is old. If I play it on the Switch, yeah, just right there. If I was to play it on the Switch, and I was to arrive back at it, and I did better without the lag, then I would say his opinion is emblematic of that of an experience of a person who has a seasoned level of experience with it. At the highest level of the game, once you're able to be consistent at it, once you've actually practiced the parts you have to practice, it's going to become a measurement of how much tedium do you really want to make for yourself and how difficult do you want to make it for yourself. There are things in the game that must be done to unlock certain things, as well as actually getting the correct good ending of the game, and securing things that requires things like hidden puzzles. Shit like actually putting together the bullet that can kill the past when you go for the gun that can kill the past. It will take you time to get to the point where you can even put the fucking bullet together. But when you get there, if you get there, once you learn those quirks of design and what causes it to be like that, it will be a thing that will make you possibly like the game, and if not, will make you hate yourself the entire way through, especially when trying to find secrets. This one is probably the second most fair one so far. 2 out of however many we've been watching ain't bad. Let me count. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 2 out of 6 ain't bad. Let's see if we can get 3 out of 6. Ah, come on. Come on, computer. There we go.
Uh-oh, guys, get your hands on the dislike button, alright? Because I already know people are going to be mad about this one. Devil May Cry 5 is really good. I've always talked about how there aren't enough games that allow you to suspend a giant demonic ant in the air with a revolver that shoots 2 bullets at once. I mean, there was that Matrix game, but that's it. Sim Ant, Bugs Life Activity Center, neither of these games allow you to dual-wield motorcycles. Things start off when your arm is kidnapped by a weirdo man, who then evolves into a chair guy. He just sits there and goes, ha-ha, you don't even have any powers. And then Dante goes, oh yeah, check out this power, fool. Your power is no match for my power. The story is a tightrope act of seeing how stupid things can get without becoming obnoxious. You have an emo guy who reads poetry out of a book.
What of wisdom no clock can measure.
But he's offset by a funny talking chicken who can electrocute stuff. The main villain isn't super menacing. The battle teams can wear out their welcome. There's a few rough difficulty spikes where bosses can deal absurd amounts of damage. But honestly, there isn't much to complain about here. The cutscenes are snappy and to the point. There are no horrible gimmick levels except for this guy who sucks ass. It's a game that knows exactly what it is and plays very well to the strength of its combat. The true goal of Devil May Cry is not to simply overcome your enemies, but rather to whoop their ass in the most over-the-top, insane bullshit way possible. Over the campaign, you'll switch between 3 characters: Zero with about 10 interchangeable arms, Poetry guy who controls a bird, a panther, and a golem simultaneously, and Dante who has 4 rank weapons, 4 melee weapons, one of which has 2 different modes, each weapon with varying moves depending on which of your 4 styles were, and all of this can be swapped with combo. It's very easy. The amount of tools at your disposal can be intimidating, but it doesn't take much to start stringing together some cool combos. Enemies are not ludicrously tough either, leaving you with plenty of room for experimentation. I mean, just check this shit out. Hit him with the arm, and hey, boom. I don't even know what I'm doing. And now I'm this guy. You know, with this guy, you want to knock him up there, and it's a yeah, and then what? It was the worst of times, it was the best of times. Now with Dante, the name of the game is to keep the guy up in the air for as long as possible. I mean, this guy, he's been up here, what, 7 minutes? I'm starting to get hungry. Oh, shit. Just like in Metal Gear 5, you can shoot your rocket arm off and ride it around like a skateboard. Or you can have a Mega Man Buster Cannon. Or you can have a fork. One of the best features on here is the inclusion of the pre-visualized cutscenes where they have a little action figure on a stick. This is where I learned that to pre-visualize the chicken, they just had a dude stand on a ladder and flap his arms around with a cape on. Oh no, it can't. DMC5's unrelenting pace, refusing to settle into a repetitious groove. Combat is so naturalistic, so easy to pick up, and at the same time, very deep and expressive, begging the player to come back and do it all over again. I give this game a 4 out of 5, 100 out of 5, $100 bill, 100.
Another one where he basically phones it in. However, now that we've watched 3, I'd say decent takes and 3 horrible takes, I'm noticing a trend and a pattern. Dunky is a lot like Aaron Hansen. He likes games. Bring this down. He does not like games that are old, that attribute themselves to a design that makes the player have to deal with whatever it is they're doing. He feels like this about Resident Evil. He does not like games that, from iconic viewpoints and standards, change everything about them that is part of its identity to try to service some industry standard trend that will make him not like what he's playing, even while he recognizes the good parts and the bad parts about it, and incorrectly identifies it as something that the game is doing, rather than something that the designer himself wanted for it, because of the suggestions and because of the trend that he's always had in his design, which is what Nomura is known for, but also because of the shit that is incentivized towards the industry because of people who don't actually play games. They bitch about them on Twitter and then demand people agree with them, otherwise they're bigots, which is the case of Final Fantasy VII Remake. And, we're bringing us right back around to his shit takes on JRPGs, he continues to hate JRPGs as an entire genre, and tortures himself with them so that he can bitch about it and say, well, it's my opinion. However, he loves first-party games, and I am assuming second and third-party games, that have a fun, flowing environment, that not only allow you to have the ability to control how you choose to solve and answer every problem that you come into, and has a lot of content for a collectathon, like Mario Odyssey, or a balls-to-the-wall shooter, like Enter the Gungeon, but in beat-em-up games, where the entire expression of identity is not just playing the game, and not just how you play the game, but the skill expression of how you achieve that triple S rating, and all the tricks of the trade you have along with it. If you remove the story, and you just keep the gameplay, Dunky hates archaic controls, he hates systems that punish him for not doing busy work, and he hates iconic things being butchered. However, he has no problem with cheese, like that of Devil May Cry 5, as long as the cheese lets him have happy-go-lucky, funny time. If it doesn't impress enough on him to be a problem, he has no problem with it, even if it would be just as mockable as the bad voiceover of yesteryear. I would say he's picky and choosy, but I think this is more what happens when you're a person who has normie opinions and normie takes. Not like he's me, but hey, if this is emblematic of all of what I'd expect from him, I'm gonna go ahead and say I'm not gonna take his advice on anything. And if he ever plays a game, I'm gonna have to play it myself and do it on stream if somebody asks me to, or if I want to, and figure out how I care about it and if I don't care about it. I'm gonna have to figure out which one is which. It is what it is. It's his take. He's allowed to have it. Whatever. Not gonna be mad about it. No reason to be mad about it. But I'm gonna go ahead and say, for the shit that he's wrong on, he is super fucking wrong. And on the shit that I can agree with him with, yes, but there's caveats to it. Especially when it comes to voice acting. I think, out of anything, Dunky has to learn to fucking let games be what they are, and learn to deal with them. I think that is the most reasonable thing I could say, as just advice to better enjoy your gaming experience. Just stop bitching about games. Stop bitching about the game, trying to think of an argument, so that you can have something to say, so that somebody will talk to you about it. But rather just play the game, enjoy the game. If you don't like the game, you don't like the game. And you can have your takes about the game. If you enjoy the game, you can enjoy the game. And you can still have your takes about the game. When you start throwing L's at the industry, claiming that it's the fault of things that they are not attributable or responsible to, and you're picking and choosing what you think is okay and what's not okay, that's when you're gonna take an L. That's when you're gonna take an L, and it's gonna be super fucking dumb when you do. So, that's it. That's Stream. 5:21 in the morning, I'm gonna play more Risk of Rain 2. Comments, questions, and concerns before I leave. Because I'm gonna get right back up again later today, and I'm gonna do the other part of the stream. We're gonna start going over the anime takes from the bad anime YouTuber. That's gonna make me want to hurt myself. I might actually go buy some alcohol for that. Before I go, does anybody have any comments, questions, concerns? And while you answer that, I'm gonna look at my Twitter. So this person did not DM me. And I'm gonna double check just to be sure. And they did not message my DMs, so I'm gonna go ahead and say that those people were trolls from earlier. I have no clue who they are. Never seen them in my chat before. Not seeing anything there either. So, interesting. Interesting. I wonder if they'll show up again? Who knows? But, doesn't seem anybody has anything to say. So, am I gonna laugh? No, that's what I'm talking about, Wonder. I don't know if that was said just now. But yes, that's the person I'm thinking of. That's next stream. But, nobody has anything else to say? I'm leaving. I'm going. I'm leaving. I'm gone. Goodbye. I will see you next time. Have a good day, everyone. I'm gonna play video games now. Bye. 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 Goodbye. 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 Goodbye.